Chapter 1263. Lin Feng guarded Jade Capital Mountain. Jade Capital Mountain returned to the Kunlun mountain range. Even though he did not personally head to the vast heaven wasteland, his existence still continued to influence the course of the subsequent stages of the war between the two worlds. As the war between the two realms gradually came to an end, the other forces in the Divine Land began to send representatives to the Kunlun Mountains at the same time. Generally speaking, it was to congratulate the 8 personal disciples of the Master of Xianmen for all attaining the primordial soul realm. The difficulty of attaining the primordial soul realm was almost greater than the total difficulty of all the previous stages on the path of cultivation. Attaining the primordial soul realm would naturally increase one's lifespan. From then on, one would cross the barrier of heaven and man, and the whole world would no longer be the same. There was an old saying in the Divine Land that a genius who died young was not a genius. And those who attained the primordial soul realm would undoubtedly have their potential completely transformed into actual strength. If an ordinary sect had a primordial soul expert, it would be a joyous event that would affect the continuation of the fate of the entire sect. It was a big event worthy of inviting friends and colleagues to celebrate. In some areas, it would even affect the power structure of the area to a certain extent. Even for forces like Taishu Temple, Mount Shu, Xianmen Tianzong, and the Great Lane Temple, it was undoubtedly a joyous event if someone in the sect reached the primordial soul realm. Since Xiao Yin and the other 3 had attained the primordial soul realm in a short period of time in the previous battle, the deep foundation of Xianmen Tianzong had once again exploded in the course of the war between the two realms. Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu had all succeeded in attaining the primordial soul realm. At this point, Lin Feng's 8 personal disciples had all attained the primordial soul realm, which made the celebration even more intense. At the same time, it also made the other people in the Divine Land even more impressed. The sect master Xian Gate is full of heroes. All of them are geniuses. This kind of saying had already started to spread many years ago, and today, when Xiao Yin and the others all became primordial spirits, it once again made the saying of the past become rampant. As the war between the two realms gradually came to an end and Xiao Yin and the others returned to Kunlun Mountain, Xianmen Tianzong also announced to the world that it would once again open its doors to accept disciples. When the news spread, the entire Divine Land was shaken again. The vast majority of the human cultivation world powers all headed towards Kunlun Mountain to see Lin Feng, either in the name of congratulations or in the name of attending the ceremony. On one hand, they wanted to participate in this grand event together and deepen their relationship with the new number 1 holy land, which was now above Taishu Temple. On the other hand, they wanted to understand Lin Feng's next thoughts and Xianmen Tianzong's next move so that they could adjust their strategy. Among the forces close to Xianmen Tianzong, the Great Qin Dynasty, the Purple Sky Dao, the Northern Militant Imperial Court, and so on, all arrived at the first moment. The Northern Militant Royal Court wasn't too bad. They didn't suffer any losses in the war between the two realms, and after the successful counterattack, their harvest was even more plentiful. This time, the Northern Militant First Chan Yu personally visited. He went to Infinite Wasteland with Shi Tianhao and the others and returned to the Divine Land together after the war was over. The Great Qin Dynasty's situation was much worse. They suffered heavy losses and almost collapsed. Even though they had some gains in the counterattack, it was far from their previous losses. At this time, the other sects and forces wouldn't be courteous to the Great Qin Dynasty just because they had suffered heavy losses. The Great Qin Dynasty didn't have such extravagant hopes and could only try to gather resources to restore its vitality. Not only the capital, West Hill City, but the entire Great Qin Dynasty was also waiting to be rebuilt. The new emperor of the Great Qin Dynasty, Shi Zongtong, was indeed unable to leave. Only the second in command, Monarch Jinyang, Shi Zongmao, came to Kunlun Mountain to congratulate them. This was something that couldn't be helped. Previously, during the counterattack on Infinite Wasteland, Shi Zongmao, who hadn't recovered from his injuries, braced himself and led the cultivators of the Great Qin dynasty to the demon realm with the others. Purple Cloud Dao was one of the forces that attacked Infinite Wasteland in the early stages of the war. However, because the experts of the Dragon Clan suddenly came out of the Xian Sea and attacked the Great Qin dynasty, they were caught in the crossfire. Many elders and young elites of the sect suffered heavy losses. Even Dao Master Blue Thunder, who led the team, narrowly escaped death. If it weren't for Zhu Yi's timely rescue, Dao Master Blue Thunder would have definitely died under the claws of Flame Dragon King. Even though Dao Master Blue Thunder survived with Zhu Yi's help at the critical moment, the Purple Cloud Dao's incarnation level magic treasure, the Blue Thunder Evil Destroying Saber, was completely destroyed. Later, at the end of the war, Lin Feng's four swords determined the fate of the human clan. After the war, the experts of Purple Cloud Dao, under the command of Dao Master Thundercloud, killed their way to Infinite Wasteland, making up for their losses. But for Dao Master Thundercloud and the Purple Cloud Dao, the next change in the situation of the Divine Land undoubtedly depended on Xianmin Tianzong's actions. This former ally had become so powerful that Purple Cloud Dao was willing to stay by his side. Beirong First Chan Yu, King Rose Sun Shi Zong Mao, Dao Master Thundercloud, and others were all received by Lin Feng. Their entourage also rested on the peak of the Kunlun mountain range, and there was someone to receive them. A young man in a white robe looked at the crowd in front of him and said with a faint smile, "Everyone, please rest here." Looking at the white-robed young man in front of them, everyone cupped their hands and saluted, "Thank you, Master Eternal River." This white-robed young man was naturally Kong Nanhua. Before the war between the two realms, he cultivated in seclusion and only came out in the middle of the war, successfully reaching the Essence Soul Realm. Although he was not a direct disciple of Xianmin Tianzong, he was the earliest protector of the sect since Xianmin Tianzong founded. He had a good personal relationship with Lin Feng, the master of the Xianmin sect. At the same time, he reached the Essence Soul Realm, and his supernatural power was also extraordinary, so the cultivators of other forces naturally respected him. Everyone went to their respective residences. In the crowd of the Purple Cloud Dao, a woman in cyan took a deep breath and smiled. Beside her stood a black-robed young man. He was tall and handsome, and his facial features were delicate like a woman's. However, his eyes were cold, so he did not look feminine at all. The black-robed young man said with a voice transmission, "You used to stay on Yujing Mountain, right? I think the abundance of spiritual qi there is more than on the peak of the Cloud Dao." The woman in cyan curled her lips slightly and replied with a voice transmission, "Of course. I mainly lived in the Barren Sky Valley at that time. Although the flow of spiritual qi contains the primitive qi of the wilderness, it has its own meaning. The total amount of spiritual qi is so abundant that it almost condenses into a physical form. Walking in it is like soaking in water." The woman in cyan glanced at the young man and said with a faint smile, "Why, Xianyi, do you want to go up and have a look?" The black-robed young man named Xianyi shook his head. "It's better not to be too special. After all, we came at the sect this time." The woman in cyan was the current direct disciple of the Purple Cloud Dao, the daughter of the Jun family in the ancient Yuan-Tian realm, Jun Zining. She looked back at Xianyi with a smile. "Then why did you ask me?" Xianyi said frankly, "I really yearn for the legendary Yujing Mountain, so I asked you, but I don't want to be unique." Jun Zining snorted, "You're honest." Seeing her like this, Xianyi could not help but shake his head and laugh. His usual cold eyes became extremely gentle. "Sister Zining is not going up the mountain, so Xiao will have to come down to see you." Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang in their ears. The two of them turned to look and saw a young girl dressed in purple standing outside the door. Her elegance made many feel ashamed of their inferiority, and the sharp sword intent hidden within her was something that only primordial divinity realm cultivators could vaguely sense, and they were shocked by it. The girl in purple was naturally Luo Qinwu. When Jun Zining saw her, she cheered and hurriedly walked forward. Luo Qinwu also walked in with a smile. The two held hands and giggled. The relationship between the two was the same as it was in the beginning. It had not been eroded by the passage of time and the gap in cultivation. They met again. Luo Qingwu turned her head and glanced at Xianyi. Then, she looked at Jun Zining with a smile. "Oh, Sister Zining, is this the one you always mention?" Jun Zining coughed, patted her, and interrupted. "I haven't introduced him to you yet. This is my senior brother, Xianyi. He was my father's disciple when I was still a child. Before we knew each other, he had already entered the Zixiao path. Later, I also entered the Zixiao path and met him." "Oh," Luo Qingwu smiled mischievously. "So he really is." Jun Zining used both hands to tear her mouth. "Your mouth deserves to be torn apart." Xianyi looked at Luo Qingwu and silently bowed. "Elder Luo, Xianyi of Zixiao Path greets you." There was nothing wrong with Jun Zining and Luo Qingwu talking and laughing freely. But for him, the peerless woman in purple in front of him was first and foremost a primordial soul powerhouse. Moreover, she was a great sword cultivator whose strength was far superior to ordinary primordial soul embodiment cultivators. Luo Qingwu smiled slightly. "No need to stand on ceremony. Our two families have a good relationship, and sometimes we can exchange seniority. However, it is normal for us to address each other as fellow Taoists." Xianyi smiled and nodded, but did not say much. Jun Zining held Luo Qingwu's hand and said seriously, "Xiao Wu, congratulations on attaining the primordial soul realm and achieving immortality." Luo Qingwu smiled and said, "It's all thanks to the sect's nurturing. I'm still far behind my senior brothers and sisters." The two of them reunited after a long time, so they were naturally overjoyed. However, when they thought of Gulei and Li Kuyin who died in the war between the two realms, they felt sad. Not only Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and Yu Hongyan, but also Luo Qingwu and Li Kuyin had a deep friendship. After Jun Zining entered Zixiao Path, she also received a lot of care from Li Kuyin. Now that she had passed away, both Luo Qingwu and Jun Zining were sad. As time passed, more and more powerhouses from various forces came to Kunlun Mountain. The ancient longevity world, the Great Qin Dynasty, the Purple Sky Path, the Northern Militant Royal Court, the Thunderbolt Sword Sect, the Celeritas Sword Sect, the Wilderness Sword Sect, the Sun Moon Sword Sect, and the Heavenly Sword Sect all sent people to congratulate him. Even the Great Zhou Dynasty, Songhai Sword Sect, Reincarnation Sect, Blaze Sword Sect, as well as overseas individual cultivators and Luofu Immortal Island also sent people to congratulate them. Perhaps to avoid awkwardness, no one from Mount Shu Sword Sect came. Only Ji Wenrui sent a voice transmission to express his congratulations. After the war, Heavenly Sword Sect and the other 8 sects naturally wanted an explanation for Mount Shu Sword Sect. Xianmin Tianzong did not participate too much and let them handle it themselves. He also did not ask much after the matter. After a period of preparation, another opening ceremony of the Celestial Sect of Wonders was held. After the end of the war between the two realms, the world came to congratulate them. Chapter 1264. Although there were already internal plans and arrangements, as well as early-stage plans that were in full swing, someone from the Great Zhou Dynasty still came to Kunlun Mountain this time. The person who came was none other than the supreme ruler of the Great Zhou Dynasty, Emperor Zhou, Liang Pan. Liang Pan was currently sitting in the Great Hall of All Heavens at the top of Jade Capital Mountain. On the main seat, a purple-clothed youth sat there, his fingers lightly tapping the armrest of the chair. Naturally, it was the owner of this place, Lin Feng, and the person opposite Liang Pan was Lin Feng's second disciple, Zhu Yi. No matter if it was the host, Lin Feng, Zhu Yi, or the guest Liang Pan, they all had calm expressions. Silently, Liang Pan said, "The bloodline of the Snow Gale Country royal family still has a branch. I can make arrangements. After the Snow Gale Country is rebuilt with the support of your disciple, I believe no one will dare offend it." As he spoke, he looked towards you. "I can issue an edict to confer the title of ruler on your mother and take a step further in enjoying incense." The 10 western provinces of the great Zhou dynasty can all build temples for your mother and worship her spirit tablet. Lin Feng sat on the main seat. Hearing this, he didn't say anything, instead looking at Liang Pan with interest. Meng Bingyun conferring the title of ruler and taking a step further in enjoying the incense of the 10 provinces. In terms of secular etiquette and status, she completely surpassed Zhu Hongwu's official wife, Xiao Qingqing's clone, Madame Xiao of the House of Xuanji. From the perspective of the great Zhou dynasty and the House of Xuanji, this was Liang Pan using the power of the emperor to interfere in the family matters of his own subjects. It was hard to avoid making Zhu Hongwu and Madame Xiao lose face. But to Zhu Hongwu, even though he was used to being domineering, always grasping everything in his hands and following the etiquette he believed in, loyalty to the ruler was the etiquette he first abided by. So even though there was anger in his heart, Zhu Hongwu would still accept this edict and follow Liang Pan's decision. To him, this was him sacrificing his private interests for the sake of the great Zhou dynasty, enduring humiliation for the greater good. This could be said to be the biggest concession that Liang Pan could make. Although Xianmin Tianzong's power was great, if Liang Pan were to abandon his important official to protect himself, then he would not be fit to be an emperor. The hearts of the people of the great Zhou dynasty would also completely scatter. The vast majority of people in the world had their own bottom line. The height of the bottom line might vary, but once it was crossed, there would definitely be a rebound and no longer give in. Although Liang Pan's proposal was a slap to Zhu Hongwu's face, it was not what Zhu Yi wanted. Silently, he raised his head and looked at Liang Pan. Your Majesty, the Emperor of Zhou, bestowed the title of Lord upon my mother. I'm extremely grateful for that. As for enjoying the incense, there's no need for that. I only hope that my Lord Father can come to my mother's grave to do something. At the same time, Xiao Qingqing, who caused my mother's death, must also pay the price. Emperor of Zhou Liang Pan was silent. The matter of Xiao Qingqing could be discussed later. As for what Zhu Yi wanted Zhu Hongwu to do in front of Meng Bingyun's grave, Liang Pan could roughly guess what it was. But this matter, even if Zhu Hongwu himself agreed, Liang Pan would definitely not agree. That would mean that Zhu Hongwu's Dao heart would collapse, and his martial will would collapse. Liang Pan turned his head to look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled faintly and did not say anything. This matter was completely up to Zhu Yi to decide. He would not interfere. We will have a Ministry of Justice investigate the matter of your mother's death. Seeing this, Liang Pan understood. He sighed and looked at Zhu Yi. Hearing this, Lin Feng and Zhu Yi's eyebrows raised slightly. They already understood Liang Pan's thoughts and determination. Zhu Yi nodded and did not say anything else. He stood up and bowed to Lin Feng. Master, disciple will go and make arrangements for the ceremony. Lin Feng waved his hand. Inform Nanhua to bring the other guests to the All Heavens Great Hall to watch the ceremony. Zhu Yi replied, Yes, master. After he left, Lin Feng did not say anything else. His expression was calm as he lightly tapped his fingers on the armrest. Emperor of Zhou Liang Pan had already made his decision. His expression also relaxed. Silently, he sat to the side and calmly waited for the ceremony to begin. With Lin Feng's current bearing and status, he would not be in any danger on Jade Capital Mountain. But Liang Pan could roughly imagine what would happen in the future. Liang Pan could only sigh inwardly at what was about to happen. Very soon, under Kong Nanhua's lead, King Ruyang Shi Zongmao, Baron Great Chan Yu, Thundercloud Taoist Master, Thunderbolt Swordsman, Flowing Light Swordsman, Tongtian Swordsman, and the others all arrived at the All Heavens Great Hall. Mo Shuluo and Shun Qifeng had both died. The king of the underworld's control over the reincarnation sect had almost completely disappeared. At the moment, the reincarnation sect was in chaos, but it was gradually becoming unified again. As the number one power in the Divine Land, even if the reincarnation sect had not completely settled down, they still attached great importance to Xianmin Tianzong's actions. The reincarnation sect's infernal sage, who was old friends with Xianmin Tianzong, personally came to Kunlun Mountain to congratulate him. Apart from this, the sect master of the vast sea sword sect, sword sage of the vast sea, was still in seclusion. This time, it was sword sage of the Emerald Wave who came to visit. As for the Blaze Sword sect, which had followed the lead of Shu Mountain before the Xian extermination battle, it was the sect master of the Blaze Sword sect, sword sage of the Blaze Fire, who personally came to visit. Relatively speaking, the one who was most unexpected was the Dao integration stage itinerant cultivator, Dao Master Luo Fu, who personally came to visit. However, when the big shots present saw him, they all calmly greeted him. The itinerant cultivator leader of the Arctic IC region, Dao Master IC, who had met once during the opening of the Kuan Pong Hidden Treasure, also took the initiative to congratulate him. From all over the world, almost all the forces in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land sent representatives over. Moreover, they were all important figures of their respective forces. No one came to visit Taishu Temple, but everyone present was not surprised. Just a few days ago, the new temple master of Taishu Temple, Lin Daohan, had already announced that in the following days, White Cloud Mountain would be directly sealed off. The cultivators of Taishu Temple would no longer continue to walk on the Divine Land. As for Lin Feng's disciples who had all reached the primordial spirit realm, Lin Daohan also sent a voice transmission to congratulate them. As for Shu Mountain, it seemed to want to avoid embarrassment and also sent a voice transmission to congratulate them. At this moment, Sword Master Tong Tian, Sword Master Thunderous, and the others were in the All Heavens Hall. Their expressions were normal, and they did not say much. After the end of the war between the two worlds, Shu Mountain Sword Sect also announced to the public that they would continue to seal off the mountain. Lin Feng sat on the main seat. Silently, he watched the crowd enter the hall. The space in the All Heavens Hall seemed to be infinite. Other than Liang Pan, Shi Zhongmao, Sword Master Tontian, Dao Master Thundercloud, and other big shots, the rest of the people, regardless of their cultivation level, also entered the hall together. The All Heavens Hall seemed to have no end. With thousands of people in it, not only did it not feel crowded, but it was also very spacious. It was as if everyone was in the sea of stars. When everyone arrived, Lin Feng said with a smile, "Thank you, fellow cultivators, for coming to Kunlun to attend the ceremony. I thank you in advance." Everyone said they did not dare. Lin Feng gently pointed his finger in the void, and a light and shadow illusion appeared, showing the scene of the heart-reflecting staircase at the foot of the cloud peak in the Kunlun mountain range at the foot of Yujing Mountain. In front of the heart-reflecting staircase, under the guidance of the outer sect steward and true disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, there were people who had passed the preliminary selection and came to the Kunlun mountain range to become disciples of Xianmen Tianzong. Each of them looked at the heart-reflecting staircase in front of them, as if they were on a pilgrimage, looking at the cloud peak that seemed to go straight to the sky. Liang Pan, Shi Zhongmao, Dao Master Thundercloud, and the others did not find this mentality strange. They also had some understanding of the heart-reflecting staircase of Xianmen Tianzong. Ever since Xianmen Tianzong established the sect, there had often been people who tried to mix in the sand, but everyone had failed without exception. But now, no one had similar ideas. On the one hand, it was because they could not succeed. On the other hand, it was because of the current conditions and status of Xianmen Tianzong. Most people could clearly see which side was more worthy of their loyalty and development. The next development was the same as the opening ceremony of the Celestial Sect of Wonders. Some people passed the test, while others were eliminated. Those who failed the test would be guided by the outer sect steward of Xianmen Tianzong. Those who were willing to stay in Cloud Mirror City, Sand Continent City, or the mysterious Heaven Realm to continue waiting for opportunities will be properly arranged. Those who wanted to return home would also be arranged to be sent back home. However, a considerable number of sects who came to watch the ceremony were also staring at those who failed to pass the test to become disciples. To them, there were many talents who were cherished. As for the people who passed the test and successfully ascended the cloud peak to become the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, before they could calm their joy, the scene in front of them suddenly changed. In the All-Heavens Hall on Yujing Mountain, Lin Feng gently clapped his hands. The entire Yujing Mountain suddenly shook. The branches and leaves of the mysterious heaven treasure tree at the top of the mountain trembled. The yin-yang sea at the foot of the mountain surged violently. The vast cyclic purple chi also seemed to be boiling, fluctuating in the void. The dome of the All-Heavens Hall suddenly changed. It seemed to connect the boundless sky and the starry sky of the universe. Thousands of stars flashed together, the light becoming more and more dazzling, like countless bright golden lamps, covering the hall with starlight. As for the group of new disciples who had passed the test, they had also been moved to the All-Heavens Hall. Lin Feng calmly stood in the middle of the galaxy, as if he was the center of the world. He still seemed to be the size of a normal person, but he gave people a feeling that he filled the world, as if his body was incomparably huge. Silently, Liang Pan, Shi Zhongmao, Bei Rong, First Chanyu, and the others sat where they were. Unknowingly, the seats between them had become very far apart. Each of them occupied a small star, scattered around Lin Feng. The Yuaning ancestors, golden elixir cultivators, and foundation establishment cultivators of the various forces followed closely behind their primordial soul experts, watching the scene in front of them in surprise. Lin Feng gently flicked his finger, and the void opened in all directions, connecting to the divine land of the heaven primordial world. In the Xintian world and the Kunlun mountain range in Xianmen Tianzong's back garden, many light and shadow illusions appeared in the sky, allowing people living in these areas to clearly see everything that was happening in the All-Heavens Hall. In the eyes of mortals, it was like a miracle. At this moment, Lin Feng's voice resounded throughout the vast land of the divine land. I am Lin Feng. Today, I will bless my disciple with an honorific title. Fellow Taoists in the world shall bear witness. Chapter 1265. When a human cultivator reached the primordial soul stage, he could be called a Tao Lord. The so-called honorific title was the title given to him by the outside world after he reached the primordial soul stage. Sometimes it was not necessarily a certain Tao Lord. For example, Liao of the Great Zhou dynasty was usually called Cloud Immortal. The honorific title was usually given by the cultivator's master or elders. If the master or elders died early, the cultivator would give the honorific title himself. In most cases, the Taoist title was directly changed to honorific title, but there were exceptions. Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao had reached the primordial soul stage for some time, but Lin Feng did not give them honorific titles. Xiao Yin and the other three did not mind. They were also happy to wait for the 8 of them to reach the primordial soul stage together and shock the world. Moreover, whether it was because they were Lin Feng's personal disciples or because of their endless potential and powerful strength, it did not matter whether they had honorific titles or not. But Liang Pan, Shi Zhongmao, Sword Lord Tong Tian, and the others all looked solemn, because the ceremony in front of them was a signal sent by the master of the celestial gate, Lin Feng. Today's ceremony would be spread to the world. Lin Feng officially gave honorific titles to his disciples, indicating that the first generation of Celestial Gate's disciples, Lin Feng's personal disciples, had truly finished their apprenticeship. In essence, this was just a formality, but for Lin Feng and his disciples, Xianmen Tianzong, it meant that they had taken a step further to make their voices heard in the divine land, and their influence was further expanded. In this ceremony, the bell of creation will ring 16 times. Future generations can bear witness to it, and it will be the eternal symbol of the sect. As he spoke, a huge bronze bell appeared above Lin Feng's head. It was full of contradictions. At first glance, it felt extremely small as a speck of dust, but at the next glance, it felt extremely huge, so big that it covered the sky. A strange feeling filled everyone's mind. When they stared at the bell, it was as if they saw the most primordial chaos. Then, as the bell rang, the primordial chaos transformed into the primitive universe. Then billions of stars were born and destroyed, everything in the world was formed, and countless lives were born and then disappeared. The bell was none other than Lin Feng's treasure, the bell of good fortune. Along with the ringing of the bell of creation, 8 paths of light extended out in different directions with Lin Feng as the center. In the void, the end of a path of starlight was the first to burn, as if a sea of fire had been ignited in the sea of stars. In the middle of the sea of fire, a handsome young man dressed in purple martial arts attire with a black robe on the outside appeared. He was Lin Feng's eldest disciple, Xiao Yan. Behind Xiao Yan was a group of Fun Tianya's legacy disciples. Tang Jun, Lin Tong, Lu Xiaofeng, and the other second-generation disciples were still in Tianwang mainland. At that moment, most of the people behind Xiao Yan were third-generation legacy disciples, but they were all full of energy. A group of people came before Lin Feng and knelt on the ground. Disciple Xiao Yan greets Master. Disciple greets Ancestral Master. Although most of them were third-generation legacy disciples, they had also displayed great potential and strength. In this war between the two worlds, the outstanding performance of Xianmin Tianzong's legacy disciples made everyone know that Xianmin Tianzong had successors. The deep foundation of the sect had been completely established from top to bottom. Lin Feng looked at Xiao Yan and said with a smile, "Today, I will give you an honorific title. It will still only be recorded in the internal records of the sect. It will be best if you make a name for yourself outside in the future. I will be happy for you. Xian Yan, from today onwards, your Dao title will be an honorific title. You will be known as Dao Master Xian Yan." As Lin Feng spoke, he looked up at the starry sky above his head and saw a jade token appear in the starry sky. The words Xian Yan were written on the jade token. As Lin Feng stretched out his finger and tapped gently, the words Dao Master appeared below the words Xian Yan on the jade token. When put together, it became Dao Master Xian Yan. The jade token fell from the sky and arrived in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan received the jade token with both hands and then kowtowed towards Lin Feng. Disciple, thanks Master. Within the Celeritas Sword Sect camp, Venerable Flowing Light looked at the valiant youth who bowed towards Lin Feng and let out a long sigh, then opened his mouth and said, "In the presence of Dao Master Xian Yan, Flowing Light greets you." Behind him, Ancestor Xian also took a step forward and solemnly bowed toward Xiao Yan. "Greetings, Dao Master Xian Yan. Celeritas Sword Sect Xian greets you." The other Yuanying stage cultivators of the Celeritas Sword Sect also bowed toward Xiao Yan. A beautiful white-clothed woman stood behind Ancestor Xian, looking at Xiao Yan with a complicated gaze as he stood up and returned the greeting towards the group of Yuanying elders. The figure of that stubborn and unyielding youth in Wuzhou City many years ago gradually disappeared without a trace from his mind. What was left in front of him right now was the well-mannered and tall eldest disciple of the sect leader of Xianmin Tianzong, the primordial spirit realm powerhouse, Dao Master Xian Yan. Murong Yinran laughed bitterly in her heart, shaking her head forcefully and following behind Ancestor Xian said, "Greetings, Dao Master Xian Yan." At the same time, the Golden Elixir stage and Foundation Establishment stage cultivators of the various powers all bowed towards Xiao Yan and said in unison, "Greetings, Dao Master Xian Yan." One of the Yuanying stage sword cultivators of the Thunderbolt Sword Sect suddenly bowed and said, "Greetings, Dao Master Xian Yan. Greetings, Emperor Yan." As soon as he said that, the entire place suddenly fell silent. Everyone's gaze fell on the Yuanying stage sword cultivator of the Thunderbolt Sword Sect. Emperor Yan had been mentioned many years ago during the Xian Annihilation War. However, there were many other titles for Xiao Yan that had been circulated. It was after this war between the two worlds that the cultivators of the other powers in the Divine Land gradually unified the titles that they had for Xiao Yan. Although Xiao Yan, Luo Qingwu, and the others did not deliberately publicize it and were very secretive about the specific details of pacifying the civil strife in Shu Mountain, there was still some news that spread. And in the subsequent counterattack on Infinite Wasteland, As the leading figure, Xiao Yan's might was like that of a fire god descending into the world, leaving a deep impression on everyone. The name of Emperor Yin finally began to shake the world. Apart from Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou, Emperor Qin Shi Yu and Shi Zongtang, who were already emperors in the secular world, no one in the history of the Divine Land would give themselves the title of emperor. They were not emperors. From ancient times until now, there were three most famous people who had given themselves the title of emperor. However, they did not call themselves emperors, but the titles that people at that time or later generations used. One of them was Emperor Kong, the master of the ancient heavenly gate. His Taoist title and title were both Sky Taoist, or sometimes Sky Taoist. He was called Heaven Emperor by later generations, and was used to calling him Emperor Kong. The second was the Thunder Emperor, the teacher of the Purple Cloud Taoist, the founder of the Purple Cloud Taoist. His real title was Taoist Hong, due since his attainments in the thunder art were rarely matched. He was respectfully called the Thunder Emperor by the later generations. The third one was the Red Emperor, who was the leader of the four ancient heroes of the Taishu Temple, Wen Qiang. In the era when Wen Qiang fought against the heavens and earth, countless people called him the Red Emperor because of his powerful strength and great achievements in the country. There were three human emperors in the same era as Wen Qiang: Ru Huang, Chun Huang, and Xia Huang. Among them, Chun and Xia Huang were not as powerful as Wen Qiang, and only Ru Huang could compete with Wen Qiang. During Ru Huang's era, the two of them fought to a draw twice. After Ru Huang abdicated and became a Buddha, he fought with Wen Qiang again. He first used the Three Lives Karma Curse to predict what would happen in the near future. The results were accurate and clear, and Wen Qiang was ashamed of his inferiority. Later, in the Battle of Magical Powers, the Ru Shuang used the Buddhist kingdom in the palm to contain Wen Qiang. However, Wen Qiang jumped out and pressed down with his palm. The Ru Shuang used the Mahavarokana palm to block, but he was no match for it. Half of his body was smashed into the creation magic treasure, Mount Meru, by Wen Qiang. As a result, an 8-feet-deep pit was left on the peak of Mount Meru before it completely shattered. People paid more attention to fights of magical powers, and because of this, there were many rumors in the era of Xia Huang, saying, one emperor dominates three emperors. However, Wen Qiang himself was not interested in the name of the Red Emperor, so it did not spread. After his death, the Taishu Temple downplayed his life, and the name of the Red Emperor was gradually forgotten. When people talked about Wen Qiang, they also called him Taoist Lord Red Sunday. At this moment, when someone suddenly called out the name of the Yin Emperor that was spread in private, everyone could not help but be stunned. In all fairness, Xiao Yan's current cultivation base was still a distance away from the three ancient emperors. However, almost no one at the scene doubted that as long as he did not collapse, Xiao Yan's future would be limitless. After a short silence, a large number of cultivators said in unison, "Greetings, Taoist Lord Xianyin. Greetings, Yin Emperor." Lin Feng smiled without saying a word, while Xiao Yin kept the jade pendant, stood up and bowed. "Fellow Taoists, you flatter me." After the bow, he led Fen Tianya and the rest to retreat and landed on a star. On another path of light in the distance, there was a long, chanting sound. Endless light shone, and the aura was magnificent. In the light, a scholar in a purple robe appeared. It was Lin Feng's second disciple, Zhu Yi. Behind Zhu Yi, there were also Meng Honglu, Yi Xinhui, Su Miaoying, Jiao Qing, and the other third-generation core disciples of Qiantian Palace. The second-generation core disciples, Yang Tai, Ying Luojia, and the rest, were also still in infinite wilderness vast land. The group of people followed the path of light and arrived before Lin Feng, bowing together. Disciple Zhu Yi greets Master. Disciple greets Ancestral Master. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. Just like Xianyin, I bestowed upon you an honorific title today for the sake of the sect. From today onwards, your Dao title will be bestowed upon you as Dao Lord Xianyin. A jade pendant with the words Xianyin appeared in the starry sky. below the words Tao Lord appeared, and together they became Tao Lord Xianyan. Zhu Yi took the jade pendant and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks Master. Among the surrounding great Qin dynasty cultivators, a green-robe scholar was the first to bow to Zhu. Greetings Tao Lord Xianyan, greetings Master Yi. Disciple Jiao, Junshin greets you. Everyone sighed. In the war between the two worlds that had just ended, other than Kongyuan Yudu, who was personally killed by his master Lin Feng, the highest realm of the demon race that had fallen was the Blue Sky Dragon King, who had died in the hands of Zhu Yi and was only one step away from the first tribulation. The group of and Spirit Realm experts also said in unison, greetings to Tao, Lord Xianyan and Master Yi. Emperor of Zhouliang Pan and the group of great Zhou dynasty cultivators looked at the purple-robed and white-robed scholar and had mixed feelings. The disciples of Mortal Forest residents followed closely behind Wang Lin and came before Lin Feng and bowed together. Disciple Wang Lin greets Master. Disciple greets Ancestral Master. Lin Feng smiled and said, Xian and I, today I will give you an honorific title. You will be called Tao Lord Xian and I and be preserved as an internal legacy of the sect. I believe that you can also make a name for yourself outside. A jade pendant engraved with the words Xian and I appeared in the starry sky. Below the words Tao Lord were the words Tao Lord. Together, they became Tao Lord Xian and I. Wang Lin took the jade pendant and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks Master. Among the cultivators who came to watch the ceremony, a middle-aged Taoist with a black beard and a tall crown sighed and said, First, the Tao has turned into two extremes, supreme supremacy. Tao Lord Xian and I, and extreme Tao Lord Luo Fu greets you. This middle-aged Taoist with a black beard and a tall crown was a top figure among the itinerant cultivators, a Tao integration expert, Tao Lord Luo Fu. As soon as he said that, everyone present fell silent. There were many titles about Wang Lin in the Divine Land, such as the Lord of the Nether, the Lord of the Yellow Springs, and even the Netherworld Emperor and the Yama King. However, such titles seemed to have a deep connection with the king of the Underworld's lineage. The king of the Underworld's lineage was now hated by everyone and had a bad relationship with Xianmen Tianzong. Wang Lin had personally killed countless cultivators of the Underworld Hall. Wang Lin had an extremely bad impression of the cultivators of the Underworld Hall, and he had no intention of taking over the position of the Underworld Emperor. Therefore, it was fine if such a title was circulated in private, but to say it in front of the people of the celestial sect of Xianmen was tantamount to provocation. As for the more straightforward titles like God of Slaughter and Butcher, there was no need to mention them. However, there was a title that was not widely spread at first, Extreme Tao Lord. As the war between the two realms continued, it gradually spread. After Tao Lord Luo Fu, the others also said in unison, Tao Lord Xian and I, and Extreme Tao Lord, we greet you. Wang Lin put away the jade pendant and stood up. He also bowed and said calmly, Thank you, fellow Taoists, for coming to this ceremony. After saying that, he led Qinfanga and the others to a star. In the distance, the fourth path of light lit up. Figures flickered and walked along the path. The person in the lead had red hair that fluttered like flames. It was Lin Feng's fourth disciple, Yu Hongyan. Seeing Yu Hongyan, the cultivators of the purple cloud path bowed solemnly. In the middle of the war between the two realms, the situation in the Xianhai changed. The experts of the dragon race went out to the sea and suddenly attacked the Qin dynasty. The cultivators of the purple cloud path were caught in the crossfire. Those who were lucky enough to escape were chased by the Fang's Dragon King and other demonic dragons. It was all thanks to Yu Hongyan's timely arrival that they were saved. Then, he killed the Fang's Dragon King and avenged the deaths of Gu Lei, Li Qin, and the others. The people behind Yu Hongyan were naturally the disciples of the Snow Wind Valley. The second-generation core disciples, led by Zhao Huan, were mostly still in the infinite wilderness. Those who were present today were mostly the third-generation core disciples. However, compared to Meng Honglu, Yi Xinhui, Chan Fangge, and the others, there was no one particularly famous among the disciples of the Snow Wind Valley. Zhao Huan, the top second-generation core disciple of the Snow Wind Valley, was still lacking compared to Tang Jun, Han Yang, Zhou Yunsong, Yang Tai, and Dao Yuding. Many people shook their heads and sighed. Yu Hongyan was valiant, but it was a pity that there were no outstanding disciples under her, so she was slightly ordinary. Lin Feng could not help but smile when he saw the emotional fluctuations of the crowd. His gaze fell on a tall young man behind Yu Hongyan. The young man was tall, half a head taller than the tallest disciple of the Snow Wind Valley beside him. He was burly, but his expression was calm and his eyes were firm. Even though he didn't participate in the war between the two worlds because he's in seclusion, but gold will always shine. He's currently the person I think most highly of among the third-generation disciples. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth curled up, smiling, but not saying anything. The disciples of the Snow Wind Valley followed behind Yu Hongyan and came before Lin Feng and bowed together. Disciple Yu Hongyan greets Master. Disciple greets Ancestral Master. Lin Feng gently pointed in the void, and a jade token appeared in the air. He continued, Xianlan, I will give you an honorific title, Dao Master Xianlan. It will also be used for the internal inheritance of the sect. On the jade token that was engraved with the two words Xianlan, there were two more words Dao Master below Xianlan. When put together, it became Dao Master Xianlan. Yu Hongyan took the jade token and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks Master Xianlan. Among the audience, Dao Master Lei Yun's deep voice sounded like a thick thundercloud. Dao Master Xianlan, Immortal Wu. Lei Yun pays his respects to you. In the ancient times of the Divine Land, there was a period of time when it was popular to call female top Taoist masters Immortal Lord. Later, this custom gradually faded. However, as a sect that had been established since ancient times, the Purple Heaven Path still retained some ancient etiquette. One of the more popular titles for Yu Hongyan in the Divine Land was Immortal Lord Wu. It was first called by the cultivators of the Purple Heaven Path. At that time, Yu Hongyan hadn't reached the Primordial Soul Realm yet. Even now, she had just reached the Primordial Soul Realm, so her cultivation level was not worthy of this title. But at this moment, not only Dao Master Lei Yun, but the other cultivators also said in unison, Dao Master Xianlan, Immortal Wu, we pay our respects to you. No one doubted the strength and potential that Yu Hongyan had shown. As long as she didn't collapse, her achievements today were far from the end. Fellow Taoists, you flatter me. Yu Hongyan put away the jade tablet, stood up, and gracefully bowed to the people around him. Then he led the disciples of Snowgale Valley and similarly retreated to Lin Feng's side, landing on a star. At this moment, the fifth road was also lit up. But this time, there was only one person standing at the end of the road. Yang Qing walked alone in the light, but her expression was free and peaceful, as if she didn't care about the lack of disciples. No one dared to look down on her or the Nirvana Grotto Heaven. Yang Qing only had one disciple, and that was Zhou Yunsong, one of the most outstanding second-generation disciples of Xianmen Tianzong. At this moment, he was in the vast land of Tianwang. In the war between the two worlds, he had killed so many demons that rivers of blood flowed. His ruthlessness was second to none among the second-generation disciples of Xianmen Tianzong. At the Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly, after Zhou Yunsong became famous, some people had ridiculed Yang Qing for being mediocre and would soon surpass him. It was not uncommon for students to surpass their masters in the Divine Land. But for the master of the Celestial Sect, who had many outstanding disciples, Yang Qing's situation was very ironic. But at this moment, no one mentioned this matter again. In the war between the two worlds, in the battle against the king of the underworld, Yang Qing's strength and methods had shocked even a Dao integration expert like Gu Yuankai. Her mystical powers and dermic powers were so powerful that she was the strongest after the four heroes of the Celestial Sect under Lin Feng, shocking the world. Yang Qing's expression was calm. Regardless of whether it was when people secretly mocked him in the past or now, his emotions did not change. He did not care about the opinions of the outside world at all. Lin Feng's expression was also calm. He smiled as he watched Yang Qing walk in front of him alone. Yang Qing bowed to Lin Feng. Disciple Yang Qing greets master. Lin Feng smiled and said, Xian Ming, from today onwards, your Dao title will be an honorific title. You will be known as Dao Lord Xian Ming and will be kept as the internal inheritance of the sect. A jade pendant with the words Xian Ming appeared in the starry sky. Below the words Xian Ming were the words Dao Lord. Put together, it became Dao Lord Xian Ming. Yang Qing took the jade pendant and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks master. After the king of the underworld was defeated by Lin Feng's sword, the ancient race also joined the tide of counterattacking Infinite Mainland. Later, the clan leader, Gu Jun, and the clan elder, Gu Yuankai, came to Kunlun Mountain to watch the ceremony. Gu Jun looked at Yang Qing with a look of admiration. Gu Yuankai, who was beside him, was the first to speak. In front of Dao Lord Xian Ming and Dao Lord Yin Yang, I, Gu Yuankai, greet you. Chapter 1267. After Gu Yuankai, the other cultivators said in unison, Greetings, Dao Lord Xian Ming and Yin Yang Dao Lord. Yang Qing kept the jade pendant and bowed to the crowd. Thank you, everyone. He came here alone along the path. At this moment, he also flew and landed on a star beside Lin Feng. His expression was calm and relaxed, safe and at ease. In another direction, the sixth path lit up in the starry sky. At the end of the path stood a dark-skinned, serious-looking young man in purple. He was Lin Feng's sixth disciple, Li Yuanfang. Behind Li Yuanfang, there was a row of Xianmin Tianzong disciples. They were all successors of He Luojiu. Tan Yunqing and the other second-generation legacy disciples were still in Tianwang vast land. Most of the people here today were third-generation legacy disciples. Among them, the most familiar person to the cultivators of the other forces was a handsome young man in the row. He was obviously a dignified person. He was Tan Yunqing's disciple, the most outstanding person among He Luojiu's third-generation legacy disciples, Lin Chuan. His Dao name was Yuan Gang. He went to Tianwang vast land to participate in the battle. Although his battle results were not dazzling, he had left a deep impression on the spectators. Gu Yinlin's way of doing things was steady, dignified and serious. Although he was still young, he was mature and had a bit of a dignified demeanor. Although he was a disciple of He Luojiu, he faintly had the advantages of both He Luojiu and Light Dance Pavilion. He used his sword to set up formations. Although his cultivation was only at the early stage of Jindan, he had already revealed a bit of an extraordinary aura. The successors of He Luojiu followed behind Li Yuanfang. They lined up neatly in front of Lin Feng and bowed. Disciple Li Yuanfang greets master. Disciple greets ancestral master. Lin Feng smiled and said, Xian Luo, from now on, your Dao name will be the title of Dao Lord Xian Luo. It will be recorded in the sect. A jade plate with the words Xian Luo appeared in the starry sky. Below the words Xian Luo were the words Dao Master. When put together, it became Dao Master Xian Luo. Li Yuanfang took the jade tablet and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks master. When Gu Jun saw this scene, he nodded and said, The master of the celestial sect of wonders can indeed be said to be full of heroes. Gu Yuankai and the other ancient clan cultivators all nodded slightly. They had also witnessed Li Yuanfang's performance in the battle against the king of the underworld. The Great South Pole Longevity Formation, left behind by the ancient emperor, was also an extremely powerful top-notch formation. The ancient emperor's lineage had a complete inheritance, and he had great attainments in the Tao of formations. At this moment, an elder in a black robe said silently, The divine prefecture's formations originate from He Luo. The highest person in the world is the celestial sect of wonders. Tao Lord Xian Luo inherited the orthodoxy of the celestial sect of wonders and can be called Divine Lord He Luo. Lin Feng had used his own dermic powers to create the yin-yang life and death formation and the sky-punishing sword formation. His attainments in the Tao of formations have been indisputable in the divine land for many years. However, the black-robed elder's words still made everyone's eyes narrow. This was because this person was the reincarnation sect master of the Hell Path, Lord Underworld. The reincarnation sect master of the Hell Path was one of the few sects in the divine land that specialized in formations. The cultivators in the sect even used formations to prove their nascent soul Tao. Before this, because of what happened to Shi Tianfeng, Mo, Xia, Shun Qifeng, and the others, the reincarnation sect and Xianmen Tianzong were not on good terms. At this moment, the reincarnation sect master of the Hell Path, who is also likely to be the next reincarnation sect master, Lord Underworld, spoke at this moment. It was tantamount to admitting that his attainments in the Tao of formations could not be compared to Lin Feng's, let alone Li Yuanfeng's. Lord Underworld's expression was neither happy nor angry. Silently, he said, "Greetings to Tao Lord Xian Luo and Divine Lord He Luo." At this moment, the others also opened their mouths and said in unison, "Greetings to Tao Lord Xian Luo and Divine Lord He Luo." Li Yuanfeng put away the jade plate engraved with his honorific title, Tao Master Xian Luo. He stood up and solemnly returned the salute to the crowd. "Fellow Taoists, you flatter me. Xian Luo thanks everyone." As Li Yuanfeng and the others also landed on the star, the seventh path of light in the distance lit up. At the end of the path was a tall and handsome young man. His long black hair hung loosely over his shoulders, and he had a smile on his face. Naturally, he was Lin Feng's youngest male disciple, Shi Tianhao. The people behind Shi Tianhao were the disciples of the Heaven-Barren Valley. Among them, the third-generation core disciples were also the main ones. The second-generation core disciples, Huang Jinting, Zhuge Wanxiu, and the others, were still in the infinite wilderness. Among the third-generation core disciples of the Heaven-Barren Valley, the one who was the most famous was naturally Huang Jinting's disciple, Shi Yang. During the early stages of the war between the two worlds, Shi Yang had just successfully formed his core. As soon as he formed his golden elixir, the war between the two worlds broke out, and he was brought to the infinite wilderness by his grandmaster, Shi Tianhao, and master, Huang Jinting. After the fierce battle with the demon race, Shi Yang's reputation rose, and more people began to know and pay attention to him. At this moment, the cultivators of the Great Qin dynasty looked at Shi Yang with complicated gazes. This was a distant branch of the royal family. The Shi family, after the brothers Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi, had produced a third top genius in just a few decades. Lin Feng looked at this little guy and did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was also a devil incarnate who had perfectly inherited the fine traditions of the desolate Sky Valley. Apart from that, there was an old saying like teacher, like disciple. Thus, after heavenly thunder immortal Xiao Huang, the Heaven-Barren Valley produced another perfected person Tian. The word Dan had the meaning of the sun rising from the east, like the sun rising from the horizon. It looked good on its own, and it was even more related to Shi Yang's name. However, as a disciple of the third-generation core disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, using this word for his Taoist name was somewhat embarrassing. Such a masterpiece naturally came from his master, the heavenly thunder, true monarch Huang Jinting. At the time, it really did give Lin Feng another shock. Yet the two people involved felt extremely good about themselves. Huang Jinting, who gave the Taoist name, was naturally extremely satisfied, and little Shi Yang, who gave this Taoist name, was also in high spirits. Shi Tianhao brought the people of the Heaven-Barren Valley to Lin Feng, smiled, and knelt on the ground. Behind him, Shi Yang and the others also knelt together. Disciple Shi Tianhao greets Master. Disciple greets Ancestral Master. Lin Feng smiled and pointed at the void. Xian Wang, today I will give you an honorific title, Tao Master Xian Wang, and leave it in the sect's internal records. A jade tablet with the words Xian Huang appeared in the sky, and below it, the words Dao Master appeared. Together, they became Dao Master Xianhuang. Shi Tianhao took the jade tablet, and the smile on his face disappeared. He solemnly kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks Master. In the crowd, the Qin dynasty's king Rosen, Shi Zhongmao, sighed softly and said slowly, "Greetings to Dao Master Xianhuang and Heavenly Emperor Xianhuang." As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. In the years after Shi Tianhao reached the nascent soul realm, there were two kinds of honorific titles in the Divine Land. One was Heavenly Emperor Xianhuang, and the other was Heavenly Emperor Xianhuang. The former was mainly spread among the cultivators outside the Qin dynasty and the Zhou dynasty, while the cultivators of the Qin dynasty and the Zhou dynasty called him Heavenly Emperor Xianhuang. This was especially so in the Great Qin dynasty. Most of the time, they would call Shi Tianhao by the title Stonefeather had given him, Desolate Marquis. At this moment, Shi Zhongmao called him Heavenly Emperor Xianhuang, which was more meaningful than calling Xiao Yin Flame Emperor. Emperor Zhou Yangpan's expression was calm. He, who already had a plan in his heart, didn't mind in this aspect. Before he congratulated Xiao Yin, now he also calmly said, "Xianhuang Dao Master, Xianhuang Heaven Emperor, greetings." The rest of the cultivators congratulated him too. Shi Tianhao put away the jade badge, stood up, and smiled again. He bowed to Liang Pan, Shi Zhongmao, and the others. "Thank you for coming today." After saying this, he led the disciples of the Heaven-Barren Valley to a star beside Lin Feng. In the void, 7 paths of light extended in 7 directions, like the orbit of stars. At this moment, the 8th path lit up, and at the end of the path stood a beautiful girl in purple. Sword Lord Tongtian, Sword Lord Thunderbolt, Sword Lord Emerald Wave, Sword Lord Flowing Light, and even Sword Lord Flying Snow, who was a return to Void Stage cultivator in the Qin dynasty, all held their breath. The girl in front of them was, of course, Lin Feng's youngest disciple, Luo Qingwu. Her master, Lin Feng, was a master of the Celestial Gate, and she had created a new branch of the Sword Dao in the world. It was different from the immortal sword chi of Shushan and the Great Nine Heavens sword technique of Elysium, but it was not inferior at all. Although Luo Qingwu was young, she was already a grandmaster of the Sword Dao of her generation. Looking at the 7 people standing in Lin Feng's divine land, including Xiao Yin, all the spectators sighed in their hearts. They have just entered the essence soul stage, but they already have the appearance of a grandmaster. They will definitely become giants in the divine land in the future. The people behind Luo Qingwu were the disciples of the Light Dance Pavilion. They were relatively few in number, but each of them had an extraordinary aura. Apart from the sharpness of the Sword Dao, they had already revealed a grand and mysterious aura. Han Yang and the other second-generation true disciples were basically all in the vast land of infinite wilderness. Only Yun Yanfeng, whose Dao name was Tianxian, stayed in the Light Dance Pavilion to help manage the affairs. At this moment, the disciples of the Light Dance Pavilion who came with Luo Qingwu were all third-generation true disciples, except for Yun Yanfeng, the second-generation true disciple. Although they were few in number, they would not be looked down upon. The cultivators of the Yuanying and Golden Elixir period who had lower cultivation levels from the other major forces looked at the group of disciples of the Light Dance Pavilion with a slightly serious expression. In this war between the two worlds, among the 8 cave abodes of Xianmen Tianzong, the disciples of the Light Dance Pavilion had displayed the highest average combat level. All of them seemed to have experienced hundreds of battles. While they were determined, they were also flexible and good at adapting to changes. In particular, there was a young disciple of the Light Dance Pavilion following behind Yun Yanfeng. He had a medium build and an extremely ordinary appearance. He even looked a little dull, and there was no spirit in his eyes when he opened and closed. But this seemingly ordinary young man, who seemed to be hard to find in a crowd, was actually the third-generation disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, who had the most glorious results of killing demons in this war between the two worlds. He was Han Yang's disciple, Lian Huazhao, Ying Luoza's disciple, perfected Yuan Xing Meng Honglu, Yang Tai's disciple, perfected Yuan Yu Yi Xin Hui, Li Xingfei's disciple, perfected Yuan Hong Chun Fonga, Huang Jinting's disciple, perfected Yuan Yin Shi Yang, and perfected Yuan Du Lian Huazhao, who was following behind Yun Yanfang, were all the outstanding talents of the new generation that emerged from Xianmen Tianzong in this war between the two worlds. Chapter 1268. Yin Yanfang, Lian Huazhao, and the others followed behind Luo Qingwu. They walked along the eighth path of light and arrived before Lin Feng. Luo Qingwu bowed down gracefully, and the disciples of the gentle dance pavilion behind her did the same. Disciple Luo Qingwu greets Master. Disciple greets Ancestral Master. Lin Feng smiled and pointed at the void. Xianxie, I will give you an honorific title today. You will be known as Dao Venerate Xianxie. It will be recorded in the sect's internal inheritance. A jade tablet with the words Xianxie appeared in the starry sky. The words Dao Venerate appeared below the words. When put together, it became Dao Venerate Xianxie. Luo Qingwu took the jade tablet and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Disciple thanks Master. When a sword cultivator reached the nascent soul realm, they would usually be given the honorific title of Sword Venerate instead of Dao Venerate. However, Lin Feng and Luo Qingwu had no intention of being special. Sword Venerate Tong Tian sighed softly when he saw this. On the other side, Sword Venerate Thunderbolt said in a clear voice, "Greetings to Dao Venerate Xianxie and Sword Immortal Lord." Just like Yu Hongyin's title of Martial Immortal Lord, Luo Qingwu was also called Sword Immortal Lord before her nascent soul realm was formed. However, although many people acknowledged Luo Qingwu's talent and potential, they did not really care much about it. Now, however, they could no longer ignore it. Moreover, the meaning of Sword Immortal Lord was completely different when it came from the mouth of Sword Venerate Thunderbolt, who was at the Dao Integration Realm. Sword Venerate Tong Tian sighed and said, "Greetings to Dao Venerate Xianxie and Sword Immortal Lord." Sword Venerate Flowing Light and the other sword cultivators also congratulated Luo Qingwu. The people from other forces who came to watch the ceremony also congratulated her. In the crowd, a young man in black stood and spoke in unison with the others. Silently, he looked at Luo Qingwu. The people around him were all cultivators of the Yuanying and Golden Elixir period. Although the black-clothed youth did not stand in the first place, the others seemed to regard him as the center of attention. The surrounding forces looked at the black-robed young man and did not underestimate him. Although this young man was the second primordial soul stage cultivator since the founding master of Beyond Heaven Mountain, and he had only just reached the primordial soul stage, his magical powers were enough to attract everyone's attention. The black-clothed young man was naturally Chu Yang. During the internal strife of Mount Shu, he had successfully attained the Essence Soul Realm. Later on, during the Divine Lands counterattack on Tianhuan Continent, he had shocked everyone with a single feat, displaying power that was far beyond ordinary people's expectations. The name of Chu Yang, the name of Beyond Heaven Mountain, had attracted the attention of the entire Divine Land for the first time. And Beyond Heaven Mountain, which was still closely following in the footsteps of Xianmen Tianzong, had also risen in status among the forces that were completely dependent on Xianmen Tianzong. At this moment, some people gradually recalled that during the Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly, Chu Yang had also shocked everyone like a dark horse. However, at that time, he was only a cultivator of the Golden Elixir period. Even though he had outstanding talent and performed well, he was only praised by a group of Essence Soul Stage powerhouses. But today, he had successfully attained the Essence Soul Realm. The strength of his magical powers far surpassed that of ordinary Essence Soul Embodiment Stage cultivators. Be it status or power, he was able to stand on equal footing with the leaders and elders of many forces. In the sect that he came from, Beyond Heaven Mountain, not to mention super forces like Xianmen Tianzong, Taishu Temple, the Great Zhou Dynasty, the Great Qin Dynasty, and the Shu Mountain Sword Sect was far inferior to the Heavenly Sword Sect, the Thunderbolt Sword Sect, and the Purple Cloud Dao. Even the Blaze Sword Sect and the Wilderness Sword Sect were far superior. Many years ago, the founder of Beyond Heaven Mountain passed away not long after he established the sect. Since then, there have been no more Essence Soul Stage powerhouses in Beyond Heaven Mountain. And today, Chu Yang had just attained the Essence Soul Stage. The strength and momentum of Beyond Heaven Mountain had already surpassed its peak in the past, although in the process of him fighting with the demon race. Knowledgeable powerhouses could vaguely recognize that his Dharma foundation did not rely on Beyond Heaven Mountain. He had always considered himself a disciple of Beyond Heaven Mountain. As his strength continued to increase, he gradually gained the ability to protect himself. Many magical powers and techniques also began to continuously integrate into Beyond Heaven Mountain, causing the overall strength of Beyond Heaven Mountain to begin to soar. This also caused Chu Yang's legend to undoubtedly be more intense than that of ordinary people. However, at this moment, in the All-Heaven Hall, his radiance had also become much dimmer. It was as if he was an undetectable speck of starlight in broad daylight. Chu Yang was not dissatisfied with this. Instead, he was very calm. He knew very well that when the news of him possessing the great Nine Heavens divine Sword Dao spread, even if the Mount Shu Sword Sect and the Void Temple did not have any ideas, and the Eastern Heaven Gate was powerless after losing Shao Dongtian and the Black Heaven Seal, the Great Zhou Dynasty had the ability to make things difficult for him. Chu Yang knew the relationship between the greater Nine Heavens divine Sword Dao and the Great Heavenly Dao. The reason why he was safe and sound now, and the Great Zhou Empire did not cause trouble for him and Beyond Heaven Mountain, completely treating him as if he did not exist, was all because Xianmin Tianzong was standing behind him. Chu Yang seemed to have finally become high profile, but in fact, he had always been vigilant. However, even when participating in the war in Infinite Wilderness Vast Land, he had always maintained his company with Xianmin Tianzong and was determined not to be alone. Even if the Great Zhou Empire wanted to attack Xianmin Tianzong, they could not find a good opportunity to do so. At this moment, he looked at Luo Qingwu and thought to himself, "Qingwu, congratulations." Luo Qingwu put away the jade token, stood up, and bowed to the crowd. "My fellow Taoists, you're too kind." After saying that, she led her disciples and landed on a star beside Lin Feng. The successors of Xianmin Tianzong's 8 branches stood in 8 directions. The stars beneath their feet became brighter and brighter, turning into pillars of light that shot into the sky. Standing in the middle of the 8 pillars of light, Lin Feng smiled and looked at the surrounding people who came to watch the ceremony. He said, "Fellow Taoists, I thank you for coming from afar to watch the ceremony." The crowd repeatedly said that they did not dare and looked at the 8 people beside Lin Feng, including Xiao Yan. At this moment, the 8 of them gathered together, unlike earlier when they appeared one by one. It was even more shocking. After all, everyone knew that although the 8 people in the lead were all at the primordial spirit incarnation realm, none of them could be measured by common sense. For example, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu, when they just entered the primordial spirit realm, they were already far superior to other primordial spirit incarnation realm cultivators. In the entire divine land, how many people could easily say that they could win against cultivators at the primordial spirit incarnation realm? As for Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao, the famous 4 heroes of Xianmin, they used the failures and corpses of powerful opponents to build their illustrious reputation. Sword Venerable Firmament, Jade Sky Dragon King, Great Sage Zhu Jian, Bright Slayer Yudu, and even Ningfeng Yudu, Wanlong Yudu, Luyan Dragon Queen, any one of them was a top strong practitioner, but now they had all become stepping stones for Xiao Yin and the rest. Excluding Lin Feng himself, the direct disciples of Xianmin were his 8 disciples who had achieved the primordial spirit realm. But even if it was only the 8 of them, If they worked together, how many forces in the human world of the divine land could match them? Today, other than bestowing honorific titles, there is one more thing to do. Lin Feng smiled faintly and looked at Xiao Yin and the rest. Now that you can be considered to have finished your apprenticeship, I still have some arrangements to share with you. He pointed his finger lightly in the void, and 5 balls of light appeared, emitting a powerful aura. Apart from Gu clan leader Gu Jun, who was in the first tribulation stage, everyone present, including Dao integration stage Liang Pan, Shizong Mao, Dao Lord Luo Fu, Gu Yuan Kai, Sword Venerable Tong Tian, and Bei Rong First Chan Yu, narrowed their eyes slightly. As the light dissipated, what appeared in front of everyone was shockingly the 2 Mayana grade artifacts, the Sala Wondrous Tree and the 2-pole Sky Peak, as well as the Transmogrification grade artifact, the Dragon God Heavenly Armor, and another Spirit Nurturing grade Heavy Armor artifact. It was the ancestral Crocodile Divine Armor that Lin Feng had just forged. The last item was a sword light that was as vast as smoke and clouds. It was a long sword that surged like a river. As the sword light flowed, it was as if it was looking down on everything in the world from the sky. It was also like the reflection of everything in the world in the sky. Sword Venerable Tong Tian cried out involuntarily. Ancient Sword Tai Ching. That sword was the Ancient Sword Tai Ching, which was on par with the Ancient Sword Heavenly Dipper and the Ancient Sword Firmament in the Mount Shu Sword Sex collection. But what shocked Sword Venerable Tong Tian and the others who knew the inside story was that the Ancient Sword Tai Ching had always belonged to the Taishu Temple, and the Mount Shu Sword Sect had coveted it for many years, but they had never been able to get it. Everyone looked at the Ancient Sword Tai Ching, which was on par with the Wondrous Ala Tree and the 2 Extreme Sky Peak, in shock. Lin Feng did not explain much, but looked at the Dharma treasure in front of him. The figures of the Immortal Sala Tree and the 2 Extreme Sky Peak appeared at the same time, and a woman also appeared beside the Ancient Sword Tai Ching. Her eyes were misty, but she was the Dharma treasure origin spirit of the Ancient Sword Tai Ching. There are 5 of you here, and there will be 3 more coming later. Slowly, Lin Feng said, I would like to invite everyone to guard my disciple. It does not belong to them individually, but to guard the legacy of the cave abode. This is the blessing of my disciple, and to everyone, it is also a bright path for you to move forward in the future. You can cultivate together with my disciple. As he spoke, his gaze fell on the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. The scales on the armor kept opening and closing, and the entire armor kept vibrating. Lin Feng said to Xiao Yin, Xian Yin, this treasure will belong to your Fun Tinya. The surrounding people who were watching the ceremony were slightly moved. The Dragon God Heavenly Armor, formerly known as the Flame Dragon Heavenly Armor, was also considered famous now. It had become Xiao Yan's disciple, but it seemed to have a different meaning. This was the earliest artifact that Xianmin Tianzong was known to the people. It was also rumored that it was personally refined by Lin Feng, and since then, it had been moving together with Lin Feng's God of War clone. However, although the artifact was extraordinary, it was still a transformation-grade artifact after all. It could not be compared to the Ancient Sword Tai Ching, the Wondrous Ala Tree, and the Twin Sky Peaks. He gave this artifact to Xiao Yin. Isn't it a little? Just as some people were having such thoughts, they saw Lin Feng suddenly reaching out his hand and patting the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. In the next moment, a majestic man with a majestic figure appeared on the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. On his exposed skin, faint dragon scales could be seen. It was the light figure of the Dragon God Heavenly Armor's primordial spirit. Immediately after, the light figure of the man suddenly became dazzling, radiating resplendent light that illuminated the surrounding void. Majestic and mysterious magic power spread in all directions, and the laws of heaven and earth gradually connected with the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. Through the body of the artifact, it was guided to the artifact's primordial spirit. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the light figure of the majestic man seemed to solidify. When his eyes opened and closed, It was like a powerful life that was independent of heaven and earth. Everyone gasped at the same time. A Mahayana-grade artifact. Although there was a rumor during the exterminating Xian War that the Xian Gate sect master could instantly upgrade a transformation-grade artifact to Mahayana-grade, everyone was still shocked when they saw it with their own eyes. Looking at the dragon god heavenly armor, and then at Lin Feng, who was acting as if nothing had happened, everyone was a little dazed. Chapter 1269. Looking at Lin Feng and the dragon god heavenly armor that had been upgraded from a transformation-grade artifact to a Mahayana-grade artifact in an instant, the big shots of the other forces all gasped. Gu Jun, the leader of the Gu clan, turned to look at the people beside him. One was a girl in green, and the other was a middle-aged man. They were Xiao Zhen and Gu Peng, who had personally experienced the Xian-destroying battle. Xiao Zhen, and Gu Peng were also shocked to see the dragon god heavenly armor. When they saw Gu Jun looking at them, they immediately knew what he wanted. The two nodded. The Xintian god's sealing flag was the same. As they spoke, Xiao Zhen, and Gu Peng shook their heads in admiration. Even though it was the second time they saw it, they still felt that it was amazing. Or it should be said that it was the second time they saw it, and it proved that the first time was not a coincidence. That was why they were even more amazed. Previously, the Xintian God Sealing Flag had been upgraded from the Transformation grade to the Mahayana grade because it was at the peak of the Transformation grade and had reached the critical point. At that time, it just happened to break through that layer of window paper and thus improved further. But now that the Dragon God Heavenly Armor was in the same situation, it was difficult to explain it with a similar point of view. On the other side, soared Venerable Flowing Light, who had also personally ascended Yujing Mountain to participate in the Xian-destroying battle and witness the scene of Lin Feng returning to the mountain, had the same expression. And the people around him subconsciously looked at him, seeing Sword Venerable Flowing Light's sincere admiration. They already knew the answer without asking or waiting for Sword Venerable Flowing Light's answer. So for a moment, everyone was silent. Lin Feng patted the shoulder of the dragon god heavenly armor artifact spirit. The artifact spirit, which looked exactly like a real person, turned into light again and merged with the artifact itself. Then, it turned into a stream of light and fell into the light pillar that enveloped Xiao Yin and the others. Silently, it floated above the heads of the Fenshin Cliff disciples behind Xiao Yin. Duan Muhong and the other disciples of Fun Tinya bowed solemnly to the Dragon Divine Heavenly Armor above their heads. Xiao Yin looked at the Dragon Divine Heavenly Armor and nodded to show his respect. He smiled and said, "Old friend, we are working together again. If anything happens in the future, please take care of my disciples." The Dragon God Heavenly Armor's predecessor was the Flame Dragon Heavenly Armor. It was the first artifact that Lin Feng had personally refined. He had lent it to his disciples when needed. Xiao Yin was the first disciple under Lin Feng to use the Flame Dragon Heavenly Armor. Although the present was different from the past, Xiao Yin still had feelings for the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. As the scales on Long Shintian's armor opened and closed, the draconic aura spread out in waves. A voice came from within. "It's been a long time, old friend. If your sect needs it, I will do my best." Lin Feng looked at the bipolar sky peak and said, "Peak, from today onwards, you don't have to stay in Xintian realm. Return to Yujing Mountain and join my disciple Xian Ming's Nirvana cave lineage. Are you willing?" Yangqing's disciples were indeed few now, but it didn't mean that it would be the same in the future. Ever since the bipolar sky peak returned to Xianmin Tianzong, he had been diligent. During the Xintian eradication war, he had even given his all to fight against Shushan and cut off the falling rocks. The bipolar sky peak, who was severely injured after the war, was healed by Lin Feng and Xiao Yin. His old injuries were healed and his strength increased. Before and during the war between the two worlds, he had been guarding Xintian realm. The bipolar sky peak's power was the two extremes of ice and fire. After cultivating in Xianmin Tianzong for so many years, it gradually improved. Lin Feng had already pointed out a path for him. In the future, with Yang Qing's Tying True Water and Tying True Fire, there was hope for him to turn the two extremes of ice and fire into the two extremes of yin and yang. The bipolar sky peak nodded and merged with his body. The tall ice crystal volcano shone brightly and landed behind Yang Qing. Yang Qing turned around and nodded respectfully to the bipolar sky peak. "Mr. Bipolar Sky Peak, thank you." A voice came from the bipolar sky peak. "Dao Lord Yin Yang, you don't have to be so courteous. It's my turn to trouble you in the future." Lin Feng then said to Sha Luoxian, "Sha Luoxian, join my disciple Xianlan's sect's Snowy Wind Valley lineage." Sha Luoxian nodded and did not say anything else. His body merged with the wondrous Shaluo tree and landed on the heads of the disciples of Snowy Wind Valley behind Yu Hongyan. The disciples of Snowy Wind Valley bowed respectfully to the wondrous Shaluo tree. Yu Hongyan even turned around and bowed to the wondrous Shaluo tree. Not only was this treasure personally refined by Lin Feng, but it was also one of Lin Feng's clones in the past. At the same time, this Dharma treasure could be said to be the strongest Mahayana Dharma treasure in Xianmen Tianzong. In particular, its defensive power could even withstand the attacks of a large number of experts in the first tribulation stage. After settling down the wondrous Shaluo tree, Lin Feng's gaze fell on Gujin Taiqing. He said calmly, "You can join my disciple Xuancha's light dance pavilion lineage. While protecting my disciples, you can also study our sword Dao. In this way, you will have a chance to improve even more than you did in Taishu and Shushan." Gujin Taiqing's sword spirit fell silent. Her aura was still a little weak at the moment. On the eve of the war between the two worlds, Yin Yuanjin had helped her resist Lin Feng's might. In the end, both of them were almost cut in half by Lin Feng's ruthless heaven-punishing sword. Yin Yuanjin had been thrown into the Xian Sea by Lin Feng, and Gujin Taiqing had been confiscated. However, Lin Feng did not make things too difficult for her. Instead, during the later stages of the war between the two worlds, when a human cultivation world counterattacked Infinite Wasteland, Lin Feng had stayed in the Divine Land to help her recover from her injuries. In the process, he had naturally subdued her and polished off her sharp edges. Due to the battle between Immortal Heaven and Heaven-Punishing Sword, although Gujin Taiqing belonged to Taishu Temple, he also felt innately repulsed by Lin Feng. However, he was more afraid of him. Although Lin Feng was not a sword cultivator, he was enough to put all sword cultivators in the world to shame. At this moment, he did not have the heaven-punishing sword in hand. With just his sword Dao cultivation, he could look down on the world. He fully deserved to be the number one person in the sword Dao in the Divine Land. Even if Sword Ancestor Ren Changmei was resurrected, he would not be a match for him. The sword that Luo Qingwu cultivated was not Lin Feng's heaven-punishing sword Qi. After a moment of silence, Gujin Taiqing landed on the heads of Yin Yanfeng, Lianhua Zhao, and the others behind Luo Qingwu. The group of Light Dance Pavilion disciples did not look down on him because he was new. They all bowed solemnly to Gujin Taiqing. Luo Qingwu also turned her head and nodded slightly. "Thank you for your trouble in the future, Senior." Gujin Taiqing vibrated slightly and let out a clear sword chime. When the others saw this scene, they could not help but have countless guesses in their hearts. Tong Tian Sword Venerable, Thunderous Sword Venerable, and the others looked at each other and shook their heads. They were not sure what Taishu Temple would think, but when the people of Shu Mountain saw this scene, they would probably have extremely complicated feelings. At this moment, there was a sudden flash of light in the void. Lin Feng clapped his hands lightly, and 3 streams of light descended from the sky. 2 of the streams of light emitted powerful waves of mana. They were 2 Mahayana-level magic treasures, Sangtian Dao Jian and Xiantian Seal. These 2 top magic treasures had entered Xianmen Tianzong, and the whole world knew about them. At this moment, it was another magic treasure at the peak of the transformation level that attracted the attention of others. It was a precious jade shaped like rolling white clouds gathered together, and its mana was vast and profound. It was the central heavenly jade, which was one of the 9 treasures of the ancient heavenly gate, along with Songtian Dao, Jian, and Xiantian seal in the past. It was the first of the 9 treasures of the ancient heavenly gate. In the ancient times, it suffered a catastrophe and fell from the peak of the Mahayana level to the transformation level, but it was still an extremely powerful magic treasure. But what Liang Pan, Gu Jun, Shi Zhongmao, Tong Tian Sword Venerable, and the others were concerned about was that this magic treasure had previously belonged to Taishu Temple. But looking at the scene in front of them, it was clear that Song Tiandao, Jian, and Xiantian seal had brought the heavenly jade back from Taishu Temple together. The various signs and the information contained in them were too rich, and everyone present could not help but feel turbulent. When Lin Feng saw these 3 magic treasures, he smiled slightly and raised his finger to shoot out a ray of mana, which turned into purple gas and fell on the heavenly jade. The heavenly jade seemed to be prepared and did not resist, allowing Lin Feng to refine it. For so many years, although you have not been able to return to the Mahayana level, you have stayed at the peak of void return for a long time. The old troubles have been eliminated, and the accumulation is vigorous. You're only half a step away. Lin Feng said lightly, "Today, I will send you through this half a step. In the future, you can join my disciple Xian Huang in the desolate Sky Valley." Jian Songtian and Yin Xintian should have told you that the remains of the Sky City and the Azure Heaven Array are now in the hands of my disciple Xian Huang. When you were in the Heavenly Gate, you usually suppressed the array eye of the Azure Heaven Array. Now that you have re-entered it to cultivate, it will help the recovery of the Sky City and your own cultivation. As the heavenly jade vibrated, it really broke through the last half step that had been blocked and successfully reached the Mahayana level. This was because his own cultivation had been enough, and only one last obstacle was left. Lin Feng could directly help him to advance without using the system reward. "Thank you, Xian Gate Master. I will do my best." The gratitude of the heavenly jade was not only because Lin Feng helped him to return to the Mahayana level. The deeper meaning of it could only be understood by a few people, such as Lin Feng and his disciples. After the heavenly jade, the Songtian Dao Jian and the Xiantian seal also belonged to Zhu Yi's Qiantian Palace and Li Yuanfang's Hiluoju. Lin Feng looked at Wang Lin and said with a smile, "The Xiantian God Sealing Flag is a personal magic treasure that I gave to you, but now it belongs to your fan Lin Zhu, and this ancestral crocodile divine armor is for your own use. Your great demon-carrying sky, Xianxin clone, was in seclusion before, and it will not be long before it comes out, right? This magic treasure is just right for you." Everyone looked at the ancestral crocodile divine armor, which was only a spirit-breeding grade magic treasure, and their hearts couldn't help but tremble. Could it be? As they were thinking, they saw Lin Feng's palm hit the ancestral crocodile divine armor. The power of the ancestral crocodile divine armor and the aura of the magic treasure's primordial spirit began to change dramatically. Spirit breeding to transformation. Transformation to Mahayana. Everything happened in an instant. The advancement of a spirit-nurturing stage treasure to the incarnation stage, or the advancement of an incarnation stage treasure to the Mahayana stage, was already enough to make everyone feel as if the world had been turned upside down. Now that a spirit-nurturing stage treasure had been instantly elevated to the Mahayana stage, everyone fell into a slight daze. When everyone came to their senses, they looked at the dragon divine heavenly armor, the Songtian Dao Jian, the Xiantian God Sealing Flag, the Shura Wonder Tree, the bipolar sky peak, the Xiantian Seal, the heavenly jade, and the ancient sword Grand Qing hovering in the void behind Xiao Yin, and the ancestral crocodile divine armor. A total of 8 Mahayana grade magic treasures already exceeded the number of Mahayana grade magic treasures owned by any force in the divine land, including the Taishu Temple. The Mahayana grade magic treasures belonging to Xianmin Tianzong were at least the Shura Saber that Lin Feng had confiscated years ago, and the ancestral crocodile divine armor that had just been given to Wang Lin. Just these 10 Mahayana grade magic treasures were equivalent to 10 Tao integration stage powerhouses. Chapter 1270. Among the human cultivation forces in the great heaven primordial world, the Taishu Temple had the most Mahayana grade Dharma treasures. It currently had 5 Mahayana grade Dharma treasures: the supreme array-breaking drum, the void yin-yang bell, the heaven and earth cage, the sun and moon divine cauldron, and the ancient sword Tai Ching. Now that the ancient sword Tai Ching had fallen into Xianmin Tianzong's hands, the Taishu Temple only had 4 Dharma treasures left. Liang Pan's expression did not change. Gu Jun looked at the dragon god heavenly armor and the other Dharma treasures with interest. Shi Zhongmao lowered his head and pondered. Bei Rong, First Chan Yu, Dao Master Thundercloud, Sword Master Tontian, Sword Master Thunderbolt, and the others were also in a daze. Xianmin Tianzong's powerful strength shocked the divine land once again. Even without disciples, the Mahayana grade Dharma treasures belonging to the Taoist sect were enough to flatten most of the forces in the divine land. Not to mention that everyone present already knew that Lin Feng had tamed the white tiger great sage, who was at the beginning of his tribulation and was only one step away from completing his tribulation, as well as the Lu Yuan great sage, who was at the realm of star and soul unification. Xianmin Tianzong also had a top expert at the Tao integration realm, Zhuge Zhan, among his foreign protectors. The current Xianmin Tianzong could really be said to be flourishing with leaves and a big tree with deep roots. Lin Feng smiled and said, "I'm very grateful that all of you have come from afar to attend the ceremony today." Beside him, Xiao Yin and the others commanded their respective sects' disciples and bowed towards the big shots of the other powers who were watching the ceremony. Everyone came to their senses and said that they did not dare to do so. At the same time, they bowed to Lin Feng and his disciple. From the time when Lin Feng blessed the disciples with honorific titles, to the time when the 8 magic treasures entered the 8 cave residences, everything was projected by the light and shadow of mana, appearing in the eyes of the whole world. Lin Feng's voice echoed in the vast land of the divine continent. Even those who were not present could understand what had happened. At this moment, the entire divine land had a clearer understanding of the strength of the celestial sect of Xianmin. As for Lin Feng, who had turned the tide in the war between the 2 worlds and suppressed everyone with his sword, his figure was gradually becoming blurry. It wasn't that he was being ignored, but that he was becoming more and more like a lofty mountain, causing people to feel reverence in their hearts. On Xianmin Tianzong's land, in the eyes of the residents of the Kunlun Mountain and the Xintian realm, Xianmin Tianzong was like a god at this moment, and no one dared to say anything blasphemous. When people talked to each other, even when they mentioned him, the speaker and the listeners would show reverence and longing for him as if they were on a pilgrimage. And at this moment, within the Xian Gate Sky sect, on the peak of the clouds, no matter if it was the new disciples who had just passed the opening ceremony and entered the sect, or the foundation disciples who had already entered the sect before, their hearts were surging with adoration, feeling honored, wishing that they could also stand behind Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and the rest. One by one, the disciples who had laid the foundation stood up from their seats and then knelt on the ground, kowtowing to Lin Feng and his disciples who appeared in the light and shadow illusion. Seeing this, the new disciples also involuntarily knelt on the ground. In the hall on the top of the cloud peak, there was a series of steady or immature chanting, ancestral master. While the process of this opening ceremony shocked the world, it also vaguely established Xianmin Tianzong's position as the new leader of the divine land. Attending the ceremony was only the last step. Before the opening ceremony, the leaders of the other forces had already come to visit and met with Lin Feng, Xiao Yin, and the others. The contents of the individual meetings between each force and Xianmin Tianzong were not known to the outside world other than the parties involved. But after the opening ceremony ended, with the passage of time, everyone could gradually see that the powers that were originally close to the celestial sect of wonders were now getting closer and closer, and the powers that were originally estranged were gradually getting closer to the celestial sect of wonders. What made Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou and the Great Zhou dynasty feel the most was that the Songhai sword sect, which had always followed the Great Zhou dynasty's lead, began to become more and more ambiguous. Within the reincarnation sect, the faction led by the Hell Dao's sect master, the Dark Lord, began to have more and more supporters and gradually began to completely suppress the other experts in the reincarnation sect who wanted to become the sect master. After Mo Shiluo's death, the reincarnation sect's internal strife gradually disappeared, and it became stable again. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell at a glance that the reincarnation sect's gradually changing direction was completely because the Dark Lord had obtained the support of Xianmen Tianzong. Even if Xianmen Tianzong did not make any substantial moves, just by showing his inclination, it was already enough to make the neutral faction and some of the less determined people in the reincarnation sect change their minds. The war between the two worlds had just ended. The Taishu Temple and Shu Mountain were all sealed. The Qin dynasty was weak. The Great Zhou dynasty was silent, and Xianmen Tianzong's prestige in the Divine Land reached its peak since the founding of the sect with the momentum of a great victory. However, from Lin Feng onwards, Xianmen Tianzong did not make any major moves, nor did they have the intention of dominating the world or commanding the heroes. However, with the current prestige of Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong, they faintly revealed a domineering aura amidst their low profile and peacefulness. This domineering aura was not because they were overbearing, but because no matter what others did, they had to first consider Xianmen Tianzong's and Lin Feng's views on the matter, as well as the possible influence it could bring. After the opening ceremony, Lin Feng himself still stayed on Mount Yujing in the Kunlun mountain range. Mount Yujing was hidden in the empty space, and it was difficult for others to see it. As for Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and the others, after making simple arrangements for teaching the new disciples, most of them left the mountain. Many years ago, Lin Feng had once said that they were allowed to open up their own residences to manage. However, a good abode was hard to find. Xiao Yin and the others had been raised by Mount Yujing, and they did not look at ordinary abodes at all. As long as others did not provoke Xianmen Tianzong, they would not make things difficult for the original owner. Thus, they kept delaying. In the war between the two realms this time, the human race gained a great victory. They obtained many abodes in the vast land of infinite wasteland and even occupied many medium-class worlds and foreign spaces that were rich in natural resources and spiritual qi. Among them, as the leader in the later stages of the war, Xianmen Tianzong naturally gained the most. In the newly occupied territories, there were abodes that suited Xiao Yin and the others. Many of these abodes have been occupied by the demon race, and the spiritual qi and natural resources have been lost. However, because they were occupied by the demon race, the spiritual qi pulsation was different from the abodes operated by human cultivators. After some of the abodes were transformed, the spiritual qi pulsation changed, and some natural resources were reborn or even resurrected. Instead, they turned into a paradise for the human race. And this kind of abode made Xiao Yin and the others feel satisfied. For example, Wang Lin, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu each occupied a medium-class world. The medium-class world occupied by Wang Lin, after his own re-improvement and regulation, finally turned into a rich world, named the Against the Immortal Realm. The spiritual qi pulsation was not only different from that when the demon race occupied it, but also different from the situation when ordinary human cultivators built abodes and cultivated medium-class worlds. There was a special meaning in it, which made every visitor feel that it was an eye-opener. And the medium-class world occupied by Li Yuanfang was named the Halua Realm by Li Yuanfang. A large number of precious materials were used as formation treasures to constantly replenish and adjust, and an unprecedentedly powerful Hua, Heavenly Gate formation enveloped this medium-class world. The other newly built villas also invited Li Yuanfang to help with the detailed arrangement of the formation, and Li Yuanfang did his best, meticulously. The medium-class world occupied by Luo Qingwu, after being improved, was named the pure Sword realm. The road to the void led the cold and dark water in the Ingyang Sea on Mount Yujing to turn it into a lake. With the lake as the center, streams of cold sword chi rose, which made people feel awe-inspiring. But outside the lake, the entire pure Sword realm was full of vitality and flourishing, forming a unique balance with the Blackwater Lake in the center of the medium-class world. Apart from Wang Lin, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu, the villas of Shaoyin and Shi Tianhao were all placed on the Infinite Wasteland. The location of Shi Tianhao's Infinite Wasteland manor didn't change. He was very satisfied with his manor, but he had expanded the territory of the manor by a lot. He had taken over a large area of the Infinite Wasteland continent and brought it into the territory of his manor. Most of the demons and spirit beasts raised in the desolate Sky Valley on Mount Yujing were moved to the Infinite Wasteland Villa. Although it was not as rich in spirit chi as on Mount Yujing, the spirit chi pulsation in the Infinite Wasteland was undoubtedly more suitable for the demons to cultivate. At the same time, the task of expanding the Infinite Wasteland Villa and patrolling was handed over by Shi Tianhao to King Philian and other demons. The location of the villa chosen by Xiao Yan was the most overbearing and bold. It was almost at the current ceasefire line between the humans and the demons, as if it was guarding the border, which made the demons on the opposite side gnash their teeth in hatred. That spirit mountain was boldly and decisively transformed by Xiao Yan using his great magic power, forcefully chopping it into a mountain city. After learning of this, Lin Feng laughed and sent his Brontosaurus doppelganger to the Infinite Wasteland to write the 3 words Emperor Yan's City on a cliff on the side of the mountain city. Among the other disciples of Lin Feng, Yang Qing's Nirvana Grotto Heaven lineage was sparsely populated. He had no intention of establishing a villa and preferred to travel around the world in search of elixirs and practice medicine to save the world. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan both chose the location of their cave residences in the Divine Land. The place Yu Hongyan chose was not a very beautiful place, but it was within everyone's expectations. The place she chose was her own ancient country. The territory of the Snow Gale country was still occupied by the Great Zhou dynasty. However, Yongyan brought her disciples from the Snow Gale Valley down Mount Yujing and set foot on the Snow Gale County of the Great Zhou dynasty. After the war between the two worlds, it was only now that Xianmin Tianzong finally showed some domineering intent. However, the human cultivators in the Divine Land were not surprised at all. In their minds, this day should have come long ago. As Yu Hongyan moved, Zhu Yi also went down the mountain. Zhu Yi had no intention of establishing a separate villa. Instead, he began to officially promote his Mirror Lake Academy to the whole world. And his first choice for promotion was the capital of the Great Zhou dynasty, Tianjing City. For a moment, the whole world was watching. Chapter 1271. It had been many years since Zhu Yi's Mirror Lake Academy had been established. In the past few days, there had been a continuous stream of people entering the academy to seek knowledge. Among them, there was no lack of successful students who left the academy and returned to their hometowns to apply what they had learned. There were always ways for the outside world to obtain knowledge, especially practical techniques through various channels. When Zhu Yi founded Mirror Lake Academy, his original intention was to benefit the world. The more knowledge spread, the happier he would be. Thus, he did not mind the knowledge of the academy being known by the outside world. Moreover, the most advanced and cutting-edge things would always be in Mirror Lake Academy. It was not because they were hidden, but because the people who studied all kinds of knowledge in the academy were always working hard to bring forth new ideas and walk at the forefront. Today, the reputation of Zhu Yi, Mirror Lake Academy, and Xianmin Tianzong continued to expand in the secular world, and their influence became more and more profound. The Great Qin dynasty, the Great Zhou dynasty, and the Northern Militant Royal Court all controlled the secular world. They naturally noticed the changes that Mirror Lake Academy brought to the world, and they also noticed that Xianmin Tianzong's influence was constantly increasing. Although it was not as strong and fanatical as the Buddhist and Taoist sects' incense offerings, it silently permeated into every corner of the secular world, bit by bit. At the moment, it was still too short, and the effects were not obvious. However, if it continued like this, it would eventually become like water and air, making it difficult for people to escape. This point could be seen by people with insight, but for cultivators, it was difficult to predict what kind of changes would occur after a long time. After the Xian exterminating war, Xianmin Tianzong and Taishu Temple stood side by side, dominating the Divine Land. Its powerful strength ensured that the Great Zhou dynasty and other powers would not go against Xianmin Tianzong for this matter. Even if they allowed others to imitate and spy on them, they could not stop the reputation of Mirror Lake Academy from gradually spreading throughout the world. However, what made the Great Zhou dynasty uneasy was that when Zhu Yi promoted Mirror Lake Academy, he did not choose the Great Qin dynasty, which was gradually leaning towards Xianmin Tianzong, nor did he choose the Northern Militant Royal Court. Instead, he chose the Great Zhou dynasty. Although Zhu Yi was originally from the Great Zhou dynasty and still had the name of the Great Zhou dynasty on him, everyone knew that the relationship between him and the celestial sect of wonders behind him and the Great Zhou dynasty was not harmonious. Zhu Yi's fellow disciple, Yu Hongyan, had already arrived at the Snowgale country, now the Great Zhou dynasty's Snowgale County. Much to everyone's surprise, the Great Zhou dynasty showed no signs of backing down in Snowgale County. Liang Jingcheng, the Great Zhou dynasty's Dark Cloud King, headed for Snowgale County with a Mahayana grade worship. After the war, the Divine Land of Peace was once again in the Divine Land. Zhu Yi's arrival in Tianjing City made the atmosphere even more tense. Although the situation in Snowgale County was on the verge of exploding, Tianjing City was still temporarily peaceful. Zhu Yi relied on his manor outside Tianjing City and transformed it into an academy. This academy changed the model of Mirror Lake Academy and became the first stop of Mirror Lake Academy's promotion. The Great Zhou dynasty remained silent and did not stop this move. However, everyone knew that this was just the beginning. As expected, Zhu Yi's fellow disciple, Shi Tianhao, returned from Infinite Wilderness Continent and set foot on the Great Zhou dynasty's territory with the Great Qin dynasty's new emperor Shi Zongtong and some Great Qin cultivators. During the war between the two worlds, Liang Pan had used the Grand Imperial Palace to forcefully seize the Great Qin dynasty's dragon vein energy. The Great Qin dynasty had never forgotten this. If they had only directed the dragon vein energy to White Cloud Mountain, the Great Qin dynasty could only swallow this grievance. However, when White Cloud Mountain was destroyed and the power rebounded, the Great Zhou dynasty directed most of the power to the Great Qin dynasty's West Hill City. This was something that the Great Qin dynasty could not accept. If no one had come to help, West Hill City would have been in ruins. Shi Zongtong and most of the Great Qin dynasty's higher-ups would have died. After this battle, the Great Qin dynasty finally chose to completely side with Xianmin Tianzong. Now that the war between the two worlds had ended, the Great Qin dynasty's new emperor, Shi Zongtong, immediately went to the Great Zhou dynasty. The Great Qin dynasty's power had fallen to the bottom and naturally could not settle the score with the Great Zhou dynasty alone. However, with Xianmin Tianzong's support, the situation was completely different. Immediately after, Zhu Yi spoke at the academy outside Tianjing City, criticizing Zhu Hongwu's Confucianism. Wave after wave of criticism swept towards the Great Zhou dynasty. As the Great Zhou dynasty's grand tutor, Zhu Hongwu was also a great Confucian scholar and a leading figure. Being criticized by Zhu Yi was a huge blow to his prestige. For other cultivators, this was something unimportant. However, for Zhu Hongwu, it was something that he had to pay attention to. When Shi Tianhao, Shi Zongtong, and the others arrived outside Tianjing City, on Kunlun Mountain Range's Jade Capital Mountain, Lin Feng finally spoke. Although he did not leave the mountain, Lin Feng's voice resounded through the world, During the war between the two worlds, the people of the Divine Land should have worked together to resist the invasion of the demon race. However, the Great Zhou dynasty secretly schemed against West Hill City and wanted to kill the Great Qin dynasty. This is a matter of pain to our loved ones and joy to our enemies. It is the shame of the Divine Land. The Great Zhou dynasty completely denied this and accused Xianmin Tianzong of bullying the weak and wanting to punish them. Unfortunately, most of the other forces in the human cultivation world in the vast land of the Divine Prefecture supported the heavenly sects of Xianmin and the Great Qin dynasty. A few forces also remained silent, as if the matter had nothing to do with them and were quietly watching from the sidelines. Even the Songhai Sword sect, which was nominally under the rule of the Great Zhou dynasty, and the rogue cultivators on the East Sea did not have the slightest intention to support the Great Zhou dynasty. Taishu Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect sealed their mountains. The entire Divine Land and the Great Zhou dynasty seemed to have fallen into a situation where the entire world seemed to be their enemy. When the Great Zhou dynasty was expanding, its methods were cruel and ruthless. When it annexed the surrounding small countries, it often carried out massacres when it encountered strong resistance. At this time, it was settled once again. After Lin Feng spoke, Yu Hongyan first launched an attack on the homeland of Snowgale Country, expelling the cultivators and administrative officials of the Great Zhou dynasty who were guarding there. The Great Zhou dynasty's Yu Yin King, Liang Jingcheng, and the Mahayana-level magical treasure, the border-opening ship, were suppressed by the miraculous Shaluo tree at the foot of Mist Mountain. The situation became tense in an instant. In the sky above Tianjing City, a majestic and domineering palace floated. Purple gold light dragons gather from all directions towards the huge palace that seemed to be the ruler of the immortal emperor. The chi of dragon veins of the vast territory of the Great Zhou dynasty continuously shrouded Tianjing City. That was the creation magical treasure, the Grand Imperial Palace. The Grand Imperial Palace, which had finally recovered from its damage and regained its former great power and prestige, now looked even more like a monarch descending upon the world with the support of the chi of dragon veins of the Divine Land. In Tianjing City, pillars of light also lit up, forming a huge spirit design that enveloped the entire city. There were small spirit designs operating on the city walls, towers, and other buildings in the city. Together, they supported the protective spirit design of the entire Tianjing City, forming a seamless whole. The combination of the Grand Imperial Palace and the Tianjing City Great Formation attracted the chi of dragon veins. If they fought here, even Zhu Yi, who had the Permitha bridge with him, would not be able to match them. Although Shi Tianhao had also arrived here, he saw waves of Dharma power shooting into the sky from Tianjing City, forming another formation. As the formation operated, the violent and vast power further strengthened the power of the Grand Imperial Palace and Tianjing City, making it even more terrifying. Whether it was Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, or Shi Zongtong, they were all familiar with this second formation. That was the divine martial immortal execution formation laid by the Great Zhou dynasty's divine martial army. Although the Great Lane Temple was completely destroyed in the battle to exterminate Buddhism, the Great Zhou dynasty's divine martial army also suffered heavy losses. These years, the Great Zhou dynasty's Emperor Liang Pan, the ruler, and the ministers have been working hard to restore the divine martial army. At this moment, it seemed to be very effective. However, whether it was Zhu Yi or Shi Tianhao, their expressions were indifferent. There is no sign of difficulty on their faces. As for the Great Zhou dynasty's ministers in Tianjing City, they did not look proud at all. Instead, their expressions were extremely solemn. In the void above Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, a formation that seemed to be even larger and more complicated than the Tianjing City's protective formation was operating silently. Boundless light spread out like an independent world. It isolated the divine prefecture from the world and enveloped Tianjing City, confronting the Grand Imperial Palace and Tianjing City. Streams of light outlined the formation patterns. As the formation operated, one could vaguely see the alternation of black and white. It seemed to contain heaven and earth, life and death, yin and yang, light and darkness, instant and eternity, reality and illusion, and all kinds of powerful concepts. It kept evolving like the creation of heaven and earth. In the huge formation, 12 light balls floated and floated, surrounding a large green and black cauldron. The vast world of the divine land, thousands of scenes, mountains, rivers, and geography seemed to be found on this large bronze cauldron. It was perfectly displayed without any mistakes. Although this four-legged square cauldron was suspended in the void, it gave off an extremely heavy feeling, as if the weight of the entire divine land and the vast thousand worlds was suppressing it. It was the magic treasure of creation, Ding of Shenzhou. In the huge formation that Ding of Shenzhou was suppressing the formation, I was the mountain gate formation of Xianmen Tianzong, the yin and yang life and death formation. Although Lin Feng was still on Yujing Mountain, he asked Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao to bring Ding of Shenzhou and the yin and yang life and death formation to West Hill City. Following them, Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao's junior brother, Li Yuanfang, also returned to the vast thousand world from their villas and came to Tianjing City. Looking at the yin and yang life and death formation, which was not restricted by the geographical location, everyone in the Great Zhou dynasty felt a little depressed and helpless. However, at this moment, in the northern part of the Great Zhou dynasty, a figure slowly walked out of the domain passage that was connected to a medium-class world. This person was dressed in brocade and wore a purple gold crown on his head. His temples were slightly white, and his hands were as white as jade, spotless. As he breathed, it was as if a universe was born and destroyed in his body. There were already cultivators of the Great Zhou dynasty waiting there. When they saw this middle-aged man, they quickly bowed and said, "Welcome back, Grand Tutor." Chapter 1272. The man that walked out of the dimension was naturally the Great Zhou dynasty's Grand Tutor, the Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Hongwu. Looking at Zhu Hongwu, the Great Zhou dynasty cultivators waiting for him outside couldn't help but feel slightly dazed. The Zhu Hongwu in front of them walked in the air, neither fast nor slow, as if he was walking on flat ground. But there was no sign of any Li aura around him, nor was there the usual vast, blazing blood energy of a martial arts expert. His primordial spirit did not transform into a human form, but rather completely fused his primordial spirit with his body. Right now, what was standing in the air was a body of flesh and blood. But this body of flesh and blood, right now, did not have any Li or spiritual energy supporting it. It just simply stood in the air. At first glance, it didn't seem to be anything special, but if you thought about it carefully, you would feel how terrifying it was. And this body that did not seem to emit any power from the outside made the hearts of all the Great Zhou dynasty cultivators palpitate. Following Zhu Hongwu's even and slow breathing, every time he inhaled and exhaled, it was as if a small universe was being created and destroyed in that body. The Zhu Hongwu in front of them had a dignified expression. His eyebrows were straight and his temples were slightly white, but he did not seem old at all. He looked at the Great Zhou dynasty cultivators in front of him and nodded his head, then asked, "Has Xianmen Tianzong begun to act?" The Great Zhou dynasty cultivator hurriedly replied, "Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and Li Yuanfang, disciples of the master Xianmen, have come to Tianjing City together with the Qin dynasty's Shizongtang. They also have Xianmen Tianzong's creation magic treasure Ding of Shenzhou and the yin and yang life and death formation accompanying them." When the yin and yang life and death formation was mentioned, the Great Zhou dynasty cultivators all ground their teeth. In addition to Mount Yujing, the mountain gate of Xianmen Heavenly Sect, which could move freely and break through the void, even the mountain guarding formation, the yin and yang life and death formation, could move. How could it be called a mountain guarding formation? What kind of mountain guarding is this? A mountain attacking formation is more like it. Zhu Hongwu did not have any likes or dislikes towards the yin and yang life and death formation. But hearing that Ding of Shenzhou had also come to Tianjing City, his gaze couldn't help but become slightly serious. Ding of Shinjo? Unfortunately, the great Zhou dynasty cultivator continued. In addition, Yu Hongyan, a disciple of the mystic gate master, has taken over Snow Wind County and killed our officials and cultivators. His Royal Highness, the Dark Cloud King, and the Mahayana grade magical treasure frontier warship are being suppressed by Xianmin Tianzong's Mahayana grade magical treasure, the Sala Wonder Tree. Hearing this, Zhu Hongwu's face was not surprised. The tacit understanding between the great Zhou dynasty and Taishu Temple made it so that when they faced Xianmin Tianzong, they could not take a step back. Otherwise, not to mention what would happen to Xianmin Tianzong, they would even offend Taishu Temple. When Liang Pan and the Grand Imperial Palace used the Qi of the Dragon Vein to assist the White Cloud Mountain, they seized a part of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court and filled the sky with Taishu mystic light. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Offending both Xianmin Tianzong and Taishu Temple at the same time was almost equivalent to cutting themselves off from the Divine Land. Unless the great Zhou dynasty completely abandoned Taishu Temple and completely submitted to Xianmin Tianzong. But the conflict between the two sides had long been difficult to reconcile, especially Zhu Hongwu and Zhu Yi, the father and son pair, who were related by blood. Zhu Hongwu crushed a voice transmission crystal, and Emperor Liang Pan's voice came from the other side. Hongwu, congratulations on finally coming out of seclusion. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. Zhu Hongwu replied. Before he could continue asking, Liang Pan immediately said, although there is progress in Yinghai, it is not ready yet. But this time, we need to prepare for the worst. Zhu Hongwu said, don't worry, Your Majesty. A moment of ups and downs is nothing. Looking at history, there are many people who finally soar and reach the peak. Although we are going through a calamity, the great Zhou dynasty is fated. There is no need to worry about a moment of success or failure. While this was true, it would naturally be best if they could sing triumphant songs all the way. However, the great Zhou Emperor Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu were both strong-willed people. Although the great Zhou dynasty was in danger, their hearts were still calm and steady. If one had to say that there was something that made them feel complicated and unhappy, it was not the celestial sect of wonders that was pressing down on them. Although Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao came with a fierce momentum, and Yu Hongyan even took a city in snow gale, Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu did not feel much pressure. If the master of the Taoist Xianmin, Lin Feng, personally came to Tianjing City, then the outcome of this battle was already decided before it even started. But now, although Lin Feng let Zhu Yi and the others bring the yin-yang life and death formation and Ding of Shinjo with them, he still stayed on Yujing Mountain and did not even send a clone over. This greatly reduced the pressure of the great Zhou dynasty, but at the same time, they felt complicated and difficult to understand. Even now, the great Zhou dynasty was still an important force in the Divine Land. It could even be said that today, when the Mount Shu Sword sect, the Underworld Hall, and the great Qin dynasty were all heavily injured and the ancient world was in the ascendant, the great Zhou dynasty was almost the strongest force in the human cultivation world, apart from Xianmin Tianzong and Taishu Temple. Emperor Zhou, Liang Pan, was still one of the few heavyweights in the Divine Land. But it was such a great Zhou, such a Liang Pan, that could not really compete with Lin Feng at the moment. Lin Feng did not take a step out of Yujing Mountain, but Xianmin Tianzong had already made the great Zhou dynasty feel as if they were facing a great enemy. Once upon a time, in the eyes of the great Zhou dynasty, Xianmin Tianzong was just a rising force that needed to be paid some attention. When the Kunpeng's hidden treasure opened in the Arctic Ice Sea, the great Zhou dynasty only had the cloud riding immortal Liao, who was at the primordial spirit incarnation realm. When it came to the Battle of Yingxi, although the great Zhou dynasty suffered a great loss and did not obtain the two immortal mountains of Penglai and Yingzhou, and even lost the Fangzhong immortal mountain that they had obtained, they could still compete with the Xianmin heavenly sect at that time. Both sides relied on their own methods and schemes. But now, such an earth-shattering change, Even Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu, who had always been strong-willed, felt a little complicated at this moment. The master of the Xianmen Gate will eventually regret that he was too careless today. Zhu Hongwu's gaze was calm and focused. Slowly, he said, "The battle now is like a battlefield. The enemy does not use his full strength, but we do not need to be restrained. We will first give the enemy a head-on blow and break their spirit. Your Majesty, since the two sides have finally completely broken off, then I will not hold back this time." Liang Pan said, "Just do what you want to do." But your son, and sure, Tianhao came with the yin-yang life and death formation and ding of Shenzhou. I cannot keep them all in Tianjing City. They have the ability to split their forces to find you. Hongwu, it is very likely that it is your son. Zhu Hongwu answered, "I will first go to Snow Wind County and attack what they must save. That unfilial son will naturally have to split up with his fellow disciples. I will wait for him in Snow Wind County and then clean up the sect. But after that, I will definitely force Lin Feng out of the mountain. I will return to Tianjing City in time to help your Majesty take over Ding of Shenzhou." "It doesn't matter," Liang Pan said silently. "Just be careful and try to delay for as long as possible. When Ning Hai is ready, they will inform you. That will be the time to show our thunderous methods. The war between the two worlds has just ended." Although the demon race was defeated, they are also watching the situation in the Divine Land. Taishu Temple has sealed its mountain, and the Xianmen sect master has to worry about Tianwang vast land. "This is our chance," Zhu Hongwu said respectfully. "Yes, your Majesty." After ending the communication, Zhu Hongwu said to the cultivators of the great Zhou dynasty beside him, "Do your job well." With that, he took a step forward and broke open the void. He had already disappeared from the spot. Outside Tianjing City, Li Yuanfang sat silently in the yin-yang life and death formation. Slowly, the giant formation was operating. Although it erupted with a powerful force, it was like Mount Tai pressing down on them. No one in Tianjing City dared to take it lightly. Outside the formation, Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, as well as Shi Zongtang and the cultivators of the great Qin dynasty stood together. Silently, they looked at Tianjing City in the distance. Zhu Yi had his hands behind his back. His expression was calm and indifferent. He looked in the direction of Tianjing City, but if one looked closely, one would realize that his eyes did not seem to be focused. In his eyes, one could vaguely see the word "yi" appear. There were also rays of light flowing continuously. A mysterious power concept emerged from it, as if there were countless things being calculated. Suddenly, Zhu Yi's eyes moved slightly. Then, he cut the tip of one of his fingers. Specks of light flowed out, as if it was bleeding. The light was wrapped by Zhu Yi's dermic powers. As it vibrated, it gradually turned into dark red real blood. These blood traces burned in the void, and then turned into streams of light that shot into the distance. The word "yi" in Zhu Yi's eyes flashed. His gaze seemed to solidify and chase after the stream of light, passing through endless time and space. My father came out of seclusion, but he went to find trouble with fourth junior sister. However, he most likely wants to surround us and attack our reinforcements. At the same time, he wants to force us to split up. His target is still me. Seeing Shi Tianhao and Shi Zongtang look over, Zhu Yi said silently, "Little junior brother, I'll leave this place to you and sixth junior brother." Shi Tianhao smiled. "I wish second senior brother success." As he said that, a shadow flashed above his head. Although it was a little dilapidated, it seemed to be bigger and more majestic than Tianjing City. Li Yuanfang, who was in the yin-yang life and death formation, changed his hand seals. The power of the yin-yang life and death formation immediately spread out and pressed down on Tianjing City. The Grand Imperial Palace in the sky above Tianjing City emitted an astonishing brilliance and aura of power. Tianjing City's protective formation attracted the qi of the dragon veins of the whole country, and its power increased further. Liang Pan activated the Grand Imperial Palace and occupied the home ground of Tianjing City. Although its power was astonishing, if Zhu Yi wanted to leave, he would not be able to stop Shi Tianhao and Li Yuanfang from the side. Zhu Yi's finger lightly touched the space between his eyebrows, and the Two Realms Void technique was activated. His body disappeared from the spot and was replaced by his Hao Yang clone. In the blink of an eye, Zhu Yi's original body had already arrived beside Yu Hongyan. Silently, he raised his head and looked at the void in the sky. Almost the moment after Zhu Yi arrived, a crack appeared in the void between the Great Zhou dynasty's Snow Wind County. An ordinary-looking but demon-like middle-aged man stepped out from it. It was Zhu Hanwu. The father and son's gazes met at the first moment. Their seemingly tangible gazes stirred up the surrounding space and seemed to distort slightly. He looked at Zhu Hongwu calmly. "Father, you've finally come out of seclusion." Chapter 1273. Zhu Hongwu stood in the air with his hands behind his back. His body was as straight as a pillar that supported the heavens. He stared at Zhu Yi and said silently, "You are also a citizen of the Great Zhou dynasty, and you carry the title of the Great Zhou dynasty. Yet today, you conspired with the rebels to destroy the Great Zhou dynasty. History is like iron. Everything you have done will be clearly recorded. Easy, you disobeyed the rules and committed treason. Do you deserve to be called a Z? Do you deserve to be called a saint?" His tone was calm, but his voice was like thunder that resounded between the heavens and the earth, reverberating in the divine land. Zhu Yi's expression did not change at all when he heard this. He said slowly, "Rebel, disobey, destroy the Great Zhou dynasty? I have no such thoughts. It is just that the Great Zhou dynasty has been walking too far in the past few years. Now I need to set things right. The Great Zhou dynasty has been militarizing these years. Not only have they committed countless bloody massacres, they have also imposed heavy taxes on the conquered countries, causing the people to have no way to live. But what they should not have done the most is to play dirty tricks during the war between the two worlds, between the divine land and the infinite wasteland continent. They harmed the people of the human race and were completely immersed in their own selfishness. Father, you cannot absolve yourself from the blame. The current emperor is also the same." Zhu Yi said slowly. His voice did not sound intense, but it was melodious. It spread between the heavens and the earth, as if it was louder than Zhu Hongwu's voice. "The will of the heavens is the will of the people. The will of the heavens is the will of the people. Today, we will not only restore the Snowgale country, all the countries that were destroyed by the despotic power of the Great Zhou dynasty, as long as they have a wish, will be restored. Towards the current emperor, I will admonish him as a scholar. If the emperor does not listen, then I will ask the emperor to abdicate. Father, please turn back from the wrong path and repent soon. Otherwise, the hearts of the people will be cleansed of the emperor's side." Zhu Hongwu's expression did not change at all. He snorted, "Unfilial son, you only want me to lower my head to your mother. It is for your own selfishness, but you came here to distort the truth and confuse right and wrong. Do you think you can hide from the eyes and ears of the world? A great traitor appears to be loyal. You are a great traitor." Slowly, Zhu Yi shook his head, inverting black and white, confusing right and wrong. "Father, your words are absurd. Public affairs are public affairs, and private affairs are private affairs. I do have the intention to discuss private affairs with you, and we must discuss it clearly and clearly. However, this does not affect us from discussing public affairs before private affairs and justice first. In the past, when you broke into the capital of Snowgale country, you sent your troops and horses to massacre the city for 3 days. After that, all the males in Snowgale country above the age of 12 were beheaded. Is this true? After Snowgale country was incorporated into the Great Zhou dynasty, the tax burden was more than double that of the Great Zhou dynasty's provinces and counties. It was only after the Battle of West Hill City that the tax burden was reduced. Am I making this up? Apart from Snowgale country, after the Great Zhou dynasty conquered and annexed the neighboring countries, they sent the people of the old countries to you to secretly recruit and absorb. Do you think that no one knows about this matter? Back then, when the Great Zhou dynasty purged the country of the aristocratic families and sects, there was a sect called Golden Mist Sect. It had also made great contributions to the Great Zhou dynasty. Originally, like the Shanghai Sword Sect, it would have been let off. However, because Father wanted to repair the Great Wheel of Heavens, you sent people to snatch their sect's treasure. In the end, the whole sect was annihilated. After so many years, Father shouldn't have forgotten about it, right? Or perhaps Father never took it to heart and only felt that it was a matter of course. Zhu Yi's voice was neither fast nor slow, and every word was clear. During the war between the two worlds, Great Sage Bayan, who was on a union of stars and souls, ambushed King Rokyong, Shi Zhongmao of Great Qin. This allowed Dragon King Ning of the Dragon race to escape and rush to heavily injure fellow Taoist Shi Feather of Great Qin. Bayan had no enmity with Great Qin in the past and had no relationship with the Dragon race, so why would he appear there? The medium-sized world controlled by the Great Zhou dynasty, the ancient world, was sealed many years ago. The explanation to the outside world was that its resources had been exhausted and it was hard to revive. The medium-sized world itself was too ancient and was about to reach its end. This explanation was normal and there was no problem with it. However, after the incident with Great Sage Bayan, it couldn't help but raise suspicions. Just as Zhu Hongwu was about to speak, Zhu Yi took a look at him. Not to mention that you guys tried to make use of Yuda's attack on White Cloud Mountain to destroy the capital of the Great Qin Empire, West Tomb City. If you don't want people to know, don't do it. Father's question just now, I'll return it to you. Inverting black and white and confusing right and wrong. Do you think you can hide it from the eyes and ears of the world? Right behind Zhu Yi, light and shadow illusions suddenly appeared, and in every light and shadow illusion, there was a figure. Among them was the new emperor of Great Qin, Shi Zhongtong. Slowly, he said, Zhu Hongwu, there's no need to mention the grudge between my Great Qin and your Great Zhou. If there's a chance to wipe out your Great Zhou, my Great Qin will also not let it go. However, there's only one exception, and that is during the war between the two worlds. Your Great Zhou wants my Great Qin to perish in the war between the two worlds. There must be an explanation for this. In another illusion, the figure of the northern militant Great Chanyu appeared. His voice was like rolling thunder. Those who obey will prosper, and those who resist will perish. It's the law of the jungle. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you borrow the hands of the demon race to accomplish things during normal times, it's just a personal dispute. There's nothing to criticize. However, to stab a fellow human in the back during the war between the two worlds is absolutely intolerable. Slowly, the sect master of Purple Cloud Dao sect, Dao, Master Thundercloud, said, the Great Zhou dynasty has been going against the grain all these years. It's indeed time to set things right. These light and shadow illusions also lit up in the void outside of Tianjing City. They appeared in the sky above the Great Zhou dynasty, and the voices of Shi Zhongtong and the others echoed continuously. What shocked and angered the entire Great Zhou dynasty was that other than Shi Zhongtong, the northern militant Great Chanyu, and Dao Master Thundercloud, there were also a few light and shadow figures. Among them was Dao Master Luo Fu, the leader of the itinerant cultivators of the East Sea, and Dao Master Thundercloud, the sect master of the Hell Dao, Dark Lord, who was gradually reuniting the voice of the reincarnation sect. There was also another person. It was the sect master of the Shanghai Sword Sect, Sword Master Shanghai, who had been in seclusion for a long time and had finally come out recently. This great sword cultivator who had successfully returned to the void and Dao fusing stage led the Shanghai Sword Sect and had always been attached to the Great Zhou dynasty. However, at this moment, he said to Emperor Liang Pan in Tianjing City in a deep voice, Your Majesty, please get rid of the traitors around you, set things right, and return peace to the Great Zhou dynasty. For a moment, the entire Great Zhou dynasty was shocked. In the Divine Land, except for the Taishu Temple, All the human cultivator forces that had come into contact with the Great Zhou dynasty were now in the same camp. Under the leadership of Xianmin Tianzong, they were all holding the Great Zhou dynasty accountable. At this moment, a dignified voice came from the Grand Imperial Palace in the sky above Tianjing City. Traitors? Who are the traitors? All I can see are the traitors and the enemies who have invaded the Great Zhou dynasty. The person who spoke was naturally Emperor Liang Pan in the Grand Imperial Palace. He was wearing a 5-clawed golden dragon robe and a flat crown. The Grand Tutor is loyal to the Great Zhou dynasty. On the contrary, some people don't want to get rid of the emperor, but to kill the emperor, usurp the country, and support a puppet. In the sky above the snowy land, Zhu Hongwu's expression did not change at all. He only raised his eyebrows and looked at the illusions of light and said calmly, "All of you are cowards who curry favor with those in power. Do you think that you could be so presumptuous now that someone is backing you up? If you really have the ability, come down personally. I won't use the great heaven wheel. I will fight all of you alone. Do you have the guts to fight?" Not waiting for Shi Zongtong and the others to reply, Zhu Yi laughed lightly in front of him. "Father, you must be joking. Back then, I once said that after my primordial spirit, no matter what level you are at, I will go find you. I never thought that in these years, I would return to Tianjing City once every year to visit you at the house of the Marquis of Xuanji. The result is that every year you are in seclusion, and I can only return disappointed. Until today, when you finally come out of seclusion." Zhu Yi's gaze examined Zhu Hongwu, and you have indeed succeeded in fusing with the void. Wearing a purple robe and a white robe, Zhu Yi stood in the air with his hands behind his back. He looked at Zhu Hongwu and said slowly, "I should be the one asking you. Now that you are at the fusing with the void, you finally have enough confidence to come out of seclusion and no longer hide?" Hearing this, Zhu Hongwu's gaze landed on Zhu Yi's face. It was as if it was solid and made one's heart ache. He couldn't help but laugh. "Unfilial son, even today you still don't understand? From the beginning to the end, the one I fear is that master of yours, the master of the Shin Gate, Lin Feng. As for you and that remnant of the Snow Wind sect beside you, if I want to kill you, it has always been easy." As he spoke, Zhu Hongwu's body suddenly moved. His movement did not carry the slightest trace of smoke or fire. It was not like the usual fierce and violent charge of martial cultivators, but his speed was so fast that it completely surpassed the limits of time and space. His body disappeared from where he was, arriving in front of Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan without any warning, as if he had always been standing very close to Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. But he then struck out with both palms, grabbing towards Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. The momentum was extremely violent, as if the sky was collapsing. Zhu Hongwu's hands were still as white as jade, flashing with a magical luster. In the center of his palms, there seemed to be a wheel of light rotating continuously. There seemed to be countless figures sitting on this wheel of light, but they were Buddhas and gods. The sky full of gods and Buddhas seemed to be sitting on the wheel of light, rotating together with the wheel of light, as if the heavens were rotating. His movements could be seen by Shi Zongtong and the others in the illusion of light and shadow. Everyone's gazes became solemn. With their cultivation, it was difficult for them to capture Zhu Hongwu's movements. Zhu Hongwu's casual grab made it difficult for Dao Integration Realm cultivators to deal with it. The Beirong First Chanyu was also a martial cultivator. The Primordial Soul Realm fused the Primordial Soul Incarnation with the physical body. The Void Return Realm Dharma body also fused with the physical body. When it came to the Void Return Realm and Dao Integration Realm, the Dao Fruit would also be fused with the physical body. However, when he looked at Zhu Hongwu from afar, he could feel the terrifying power in Zhu Hongwu's body without Zhu Hongwu making a move. As Zhu Hongwu inhaled and exhaled, it seemed as if a universe was born and destroyed in his body. The Beirong First Chanyu could also achieve such might, but he needed to use ancient power to erupt. It was impossible for him, who was at the Tao integration realm, to achieve such a feat. What made the Bei Rong first Changyu's heart even heavier was that Zhu Hongwu, who was rushing towards Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan, did not seem to have used his full strength. In the face of Zhu Hongwu, who brazenly rushed in front of him, Zhu Yi's expression did not change at all. He paused slightly, and streams of air surged out of his body. Lord Father, the person who cannot see the truth is you. Chapter 1274. Zhu Hongwu specialized in martial arts. His martial will was pure and condensed, and the power of his flesh and blood was incomparably powerful. It had even undergone a qualitative change. Generally speaking, martial arts experts at the primordial spirit incarnation stage had yang energy to the extreme. They were like the blazing sun in the sky. When others approached them, it was like approaching the sun. Martial arts adepts at the spirit refinement stage gradually showed signs of returning to the natural state. The fluctuations of their blood were no longer as hot, but they were more powerful. The acupoints all over their bodies were condensed, and as they vibrated, it was like the stars in the universe were flashing. Outside the body was the great thousand worlds, and inside the body was another world. The starry sky inside and outside the body were intertwined. And after returning to the void and merging with the path, the physical strength of martial arts adepts rose to another level. When the power of their blood exploded, it was like the universe and the body was destroyed, and then chaos reappeared. At this moment, Zhu Hongwu did not need to exert force. Just by breathing, the universe in his body seemed to experience life and death. It was truly terrifying. And when he actively released his power now, the universe in his body remained constant, but the world outside the body was shaken until the void was shattered, as if it was on the verge of destruction. Apart from power, Zhu Hongwu's speed was also extremely fast. In a short distance, he shrank the earth to inches and turned the horizon into a mere foot. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. He was a martial arts adept. Once he got close, his lethality would increase exponentially. But Zhu Yi seemed to ignore this. Streams of air surged from his body, and then they intertwined, transforming into a huge qilin. The qilin let out a long roar. It did not contain anger or killing intent, but it was awe-inspiring and intimidating. And above the qilin's head, a wheel of light also appeared. The wheel of light rotated, and between heaven and earth, rays of light faintly appeared and gathered towards the wheel of light. The rotating wheel of light also seemed to revolve at the same time as the myriad worlds. Zhu Yi said indifferently, "The wheel of heavens revolves the myriad principles of heaven and earth, not the so-called thoughts of gods and Buddhas. Seeing one's heart and understanding one's nature, everyone can become Buddhas. Understanding the principles, everyone can become gods." The wheel of light merged with the qilin. Immediately, the qilin's body emitted an extremely majestic power that covered the heavens and suppressed the myriad worlds. This was the combined power of Zhu Yi's heavenly unicorn technique and the ancient heavenly gate's supreme divine ability, the Wheel of Heavens. As the qilin roared, it stood in front of Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. Its hind hooves were in the air, and its two front hooves were off the ground, stomping down on Zhu Hongwu. It was as if the heavens were overturned, and it smashed towards the ground. Your heavenly treasure wheel was obtained through Xiao Dongtian, but it is more complete than his. Zhu Hongwu's eyes flashed. He didn't seem to be too surprised. One of his palms changed from grabbing down to lifting up, and a majestic power spread out. His seemingly small palm suddenly seemed to have the power to cover the sky, and he single-handedly held up the qilin's two hooves. Zhu Hongwu's other hand formed the shape of a claw and clawed at the vital points of the qilin's abdomen. You have obtained the Sangtian Dao Jian, comprehended the great nine heavens celestial sword, and verified it with other heavenly gate Dao techniques. Recently, You have obtained the remains of the Sky City, and obtained the heavenly jade. You have grasped more heavenly gate orthodoxies than Shao Don Tian. However, don't forget that the great wheel of heavens is in my hands. Apart from the great nine heavens celestial sword and the azure heaven formation, the heavenly gate orthodoxies that I have grasped are the most complete ones. Now, I have long surpassed the heavenly gate orthodoxies. Zhu Hongwu's claw looked extremely crude. It was like the black tiger heart digging technique that ordinary martial artists wouldn't even bother to use when they were skilled in martial arts. However, with this claw, the qilin formed by Zhu Yi's magic power couldn't dodge, and the vital points of its abdomen were directly penetrated. Then, Zhu Hongwu clawed and tore open the qilin's abdomen. With Zhu Yi's current magic power and the qilin image, it was as if the sacred beast had truly descended into the mortal world. However, at this moment, Zhu Hongwu was like a world-destroying demon god, killing the sacred beast. Fourth junior sister, go to the Salowaxian first. Zhu Yi's expression didn't change at all. He raised one hand and made a hand seal, pointing at Zhu Hongwu. Streams of magic power surged out and circled around the heaven and earth. Yu Hongyan stared at Zhu Hongwu. There seemed to be flames dancing in her eyes, but her gaze was cold. However, at this moment, although her chest was filled with anger, her mind and sea of consciousness were clear. Instead, she was unprecedentedly calm. She nodded, and in a flash, she quickly moved far away. She moved towards the peak of Mist Mountain, towards the Salowaxian wondrous tree that emitted a dark golden radiance. Zhu Hongwu was expressionless. Trying to leave now? It's too late. After tearing the qilin apart in a domineering manner, Zhu Hongwu took another step forward and attacked Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan. At Zhu Hongwu's and Zhu Yi's current magic power realm, they could ignore the barriers of space and time most of the time. However, when the opponent's strength was extraordinary, they could cancel each other out and suppress each other, allowing the concept of space and time to reappear. As for Zhu Hongwu, who cultivated martial arts, once he got close to his opponent, his powerful explosive force made his speed even faster than the thoughts of his opponent. Even if his opponent could move according to their will, they wouldn't be able to react in time. However, just as Zhu Hongwu's feet moved, he saw streams of air gushing out from Zhu Yi's body, turning into dragon shadows. As these dragon shadows roared, they revealed a will to continuously improve. Originally, it originated from Zhu Yi's own dragon ascension art. It didn't have any offensive power, but rather, it represented the grand will of everyone in the world to strive to improve. However, at this moment, these dragon shadows displayed powerful offensive and destructive power. They surrounded Zhu Hongwu from all directions, and then, like a meteor shower crashing into the ground, they bombarded Zhu Hongwu. Zhu Hongwu's expression changed slightly. Ruthless sovereign's orthodoxy? You got it from Marquis Jinghuan, Liang'an? Zhu Yi said unhurriedly. Ruthless sovereign cultivated both magic and martial arts. Liang'an practiced martial arts, but he also inherited part of Ruthless Sovereign's magic power and magic power. Ruthless Sovereign is selfish and greedy, and everything he does is self-centered. However, his power of constantly improving has its merits. I'll keep the essence and get rid of the dregs. Please, Lord Father, give me some pointers. Zhu Hongwu raised his eyebrows. It's not worth mentioning. As his body trembled, it was as if he had transformed into thousands of people at this moment. Countless iron fists blasted out, sweeping in all directions like a storm, shattering the dragon shadows that attacked him one by one. However, at this moment, Zhu Hongwu slightly stopped in his tracks. He no longer tried to kill Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan in one fell swoop. Instead, he re-evaluated Zhu Yi in front of him. Shi Zongtong, Bei Rong, First Chan Yu, and the others who were watching the battle were also moved. Because of the golden bridge of the Permethar realm, people say that Ez is currently the strongest among the direct disciples of the Xian Gate's master. However, it seems that even without the golden bridge of the Permethar realm, his magic power is still shockingly strong. Whether it was the Xian Gate magic power or the Ruthless Sovereign's magic power, Zhu Yi was at ease and didn't feel sluggish at all. He looked like a direct disciple of the ancient Xian Gate who had traveled through time and came to this world, or a person who had been immersed in the Ruthless Sovereign's magic power for many years. The true direct disciple of the Xian Gate, the direct disciple of the Ruthless Sovereign's magic power, might not be as skilled as Zhu Yi in using these magic power and magic power. The cultivation of most magic power and magic power couldn't be achieved in one go, but Zhu Yi could use them at will. That's not the point. Zhu Hongwu stared at Zhu Yi but didn't rush to attack again. He had experienced hundreds of battles and had excellent eyesight. Although they had only exchanged 2 moves, he could already see that the problem wasn't as simple as it seemed. The point was that Zhu Yi was still able to react when he was fighting at close range and cast his magic power to deal with it in time. He didn't feel embarrassed at being fought at close range by a martial arts cultivator at all. When the cultivation realm, magic power, and magic power reached a certain level and were clearly a certain distance away from the martial arts cultivator, the Dharma cultivator was indeed not afraid of the martial arts cultivator getting close to them. This was because the level was different. Although the martial arts cultivator was fast, they couldn't be faster than the reaction speed of the Dharma cultivator. Moreover, if the difference in magic power and magic power was too great, the strong could change space and distance, making it impossible for the weak to get close to them. However, although Zhu Hongwu admitted that Zhu Yi's magic power and magic power were far stronger than his current primordial soul incarnation realm, and even stronger than most Dao integration realm powerhouses, and even some first tribulation stage powerhouses, it was not enough to be faster than Zhu Hongwu. Normally, when he got close to Zhu Yi and fought at such a close range, the outcome would be decided before the fight even started. However, the reality was completely the opposite. In close combat, the 2 of them fought back and forth. Although Zhu Hongwu still had the upper hand, he couldn't gain the upper hand, let alone win. The most unusual thing was that when he got close to Zhu Yi while fighting calmly, he had no intention of widening the distance again. Zhu Yi just stood there proudly, not taking a step back. He faced Zhu Hongwu, who was close to him, tit for tat, and sparks flew everywhere. Even if Zhu Hongwu slowed down his attack slightly, Zhu Yi had no intention of taking the opportunity to widen the distance. He still stood there calmly and looked at Zhu Hongwu. Prediction like the Buddhist 3-world karma curse? No, my fist theory has integrated the Tao of karma. If he wants to use a technique like the 3-world karma curse to predict my movements, he can't do it with his magic power and magic power. It seems like he has seen through my real situation and has the ability to attack first. Zhu Hongwu stared at Zhu Yi's eyes and saw that in Zhu Yi's pupils, he could vaguely see the word "yi" appear. There were also rays of light flowing continuously, and a mysterious power concept emerged from it, as if countless things were being deduced. Zhu Yi looked at Zhu Hongwu and said indifferently, "Father, show me your true abilities." In the entire history of the human cultivation world, if you want to list the Dharma cultivators who are least afraid of warriors getting close to them, I should be one of the best. Zhu Hongwu said coldly, "Unfilial son, you are the one who is at a disadvantage now." As he said that, he threw a punch at Zhu Yi from afar. The punch looked extremely slow, but it was as heavy as the earth and as vast as the sky, enveloping the surrounding area. The entire world seemed to freeze. Slowly, Zhu Hongwu's punch pushed forward. It was extremely slow, but it was unavoidable. In the void, a wheel of light appeared, spinning constantly. The light wheel was filled with Buddhas chanting together, and there were rays of purple light shining, showing a domineering aura that ruled over the heavens. A violent force pressed down on Zhu Yi. He wanted to force Zhu Yi to fight head-on. Zhu Hongwu said silently, "Unfilial son, let me see how much you have learned under your master." Chapter 1275. Zhu Hongwu punched out, his powerful fist intent locking down the surrounding space. The power of his physical body's blood and qi exploded, and the void between him and Zhu Yi exploded. The spatial distance between them instantly lost all meaning. Zhu Yi did not seem to mind. He formed a seal with his hands, and a huge figure of a spirit turtle appeared. It was like a huge island, or perhaps a small floating continent. Golden light suddenly surged on the spirit turtle, and the chanting of the heavens rang out. A hazy figure condensed on the back of the turtle, sitting with its legs crossed. It was the statue of a Vajra of Buddhism. The life of a person was like the morning dew, a bubble. It existed for an extremely short period of time, which was why the Buddha said that life and death were impermanent. There was great fear between life and death. It was to escape from the impermanence of life and death that the eternal and indestructible Vajra was created. Life was like the morning dew, impermanent. Only the Vajra was firm and eternal. Zhu Yi comprehended the true meaning of the Vajra and strengthened the image of the spirit turtle condensed from his myriad manifestation method of repatriation. The spirit turtle that was steady and heavy in the first place suddenly changed. The sorrowful statue of the Vajra vanished, while the spirit turtle went from its original greenish-black color to clear and transparent like glass. However, it radiated a great power that was as tough as the Vajra, and its defense increased further. As for Zhu Yi himself, he extended out of the spirit turtle. Through the glass-like body of the spirit turtle, it was possible to see Zhu Yi clearly. However, Zhu Yi seemed to be in a completely different world from the people in the outside world. He could not be touched, nor could he be contacted. No matter how much the outside world collapsed, he would not be harmed at all. Zhu Hongwu snorted gently. He did not stop punching at all. The moment the glass-like spirit turtle appeared, his fist had already landed on the shell. The shell shook violently. The originally indestructible glass-like Vajra produced an ear-piercing sound at that moment, as if porcelain had shattered. Then, cracks appeared on the surface of the spirit turtle's body. Shi Zongtong and the other spectating cultivators all gasped. Zhu Yi's Vajra spirit tortoise had a defense that was even stronger than the Buddhist statue of Vajra that was manifested by a Pure Land Buddhist. However, it was shattered by a single punch from Zhu Hongwu. In the battle to annihilate Buddhism in the past, this fiend used his essence soul incarnation to kill an eminent monk of the Great Thunderclap Monastery who had cultivated the Rulai Dharmakaya body. It's indeed not a coincidence. Shi Zongtang's expression was calm as he stared at Zhu Hongwu. When Zhu Hongwu saw that the adamantine spirit turtle hadn't completely shattered, he revealed a surprised expression. As they flashed, the starry sky above their heads seemed to resonate. Is this the inspiration from the Elysium 7 Planets True technique? Zhu Hongwu's expression didn't change at all. Facing the sky, full of dragon shadows, he didn't have any intention of dodging. Above his head, blood and qi rose. Light and shadow floated, forming a huge wheel of light. The wheel of light kept spinning, but the center was empty. On the wheel of light, deities were chanting, Buddhas were chanting, and emperors were muttering in low voices. This wheel of light was the manifestation of Zhu Hongwu's martial Tao fist intent. At this moment, the illusory fist intent condensed into a solid form, revealing an extremely strong concept of power. Looking at the wheel of light, Zhu Yi vaguely felt that he was facing a real great wheel of heavens. As the wheel of light spun, it seemed like the world was rotating at the same time. Thousands of gods, Buddhas, and immortal emperors gathered together, controlling the entire world. Zhu Hongwu's martial Tao fist intent was majestic. He didn't need to specially activate it. Adding it to his body, it made his body of flesh and blood shine brightly at this moment. He turned a blind eye to the attacks of the many dragon shadows that Zhu Yi had activated. He stood in the void like a terrifying demon god. No matter how many dragons of light attacked, his body didn't even shake. For a moment, the light dragons kept shattering, and Zhu Hongwu's body was like an unshakable reef on the seashore. When the waves hit his body, the waves would shatter and scatter, but the reef was unshakable. Seeing this scene, Shi Zongtong, the northern militant Great Chanyu, and the others all had dignified expressions. They now understood why Zhu Hongwu had the confidence to say that he could fight one-on-one. It was only at this moment that Zhu Hongwu finally revealed his true ability. He manifested his martial Dao fist intent and didn't dodge or evade. While resisting Zhu Yi's attack, his own attacks didn't stop at all. He once again shattered the diamond spirit turtle in front of him. Zhu Yi silently looked at Zhu Hongwu. His eyes constantly flashed, and the word gradually became clear. And in Zhu Yi's vision, the mist that shrouded Zhu Hongwu's body also dissipated, becoming clearer and clearer. He quickly understood. So that's how it is. Father, you combine the power of the Great Lane Temple's Buddhist orthodoxy, the Heavenly Gate orthodoxy, and the Tai Huang orthodoxy into one, and then successfully returned to the void and fused with the Tao. You could be considered a genius. However, the Tai Huang is a ruler, and His Majesty Emperor of Zhou also cultivates the Tai Huang orthodoxy. Under the same dynasty, the two of you actually cultivated the emperor's art at the same time. After Zhu Hongwu shattered the diamond spirit turtle, his body suddenly flashed, and then his hands formed into claws, grabbing the black and white phoenix that had just appeared. He said coldly, "The Tai Shirtian heavens is already the dust of history. Whether it is the Tai Huang Imperial Palace or its orthodoxy, they are just tools used by our dynasty to help the Great Zhou dynasty become powerful. His Majesty of our dynasty is the ruler of this day and age. The ruler is the person, not the Tao." Zhu Yi smiled, and his eyes suddenly flashed. Apart from these three orthodoxies, it seems that you comprehended other powers to be able to return to the void and fuse with the Tao. What is it? You still have the time to care about this. Zhu Hongwu said indifferently. You could be considered to have learned many Tao and divine arts. Your Xianmen Tianzong's orthodoxy is indeed outstanding, being able to carry so many top-notch Tao skills. However, you are a jumble, but you are not proficient. You seem to be skilled, but you have not comprehended the true meaning within. Your so-called fusion with your own divine arts is just a simple grafting and piecing together like a pile of hodgepodge. Let me teach you what it means to integrate and master. Zhu Hongwu exerted force with his hands, directly tearing the black and white phoenix apart. Then, the spinning wheel of light above his head suddenly stopped. The wheel of light stopped spinning, and the figures of the gods, Buddhas, and celestial kings on it gradually disappeared. However, the chanting of the great Tao became even louder. The surrounding void was completely enveloped by Zhu Hongwu's fist will. Even with Zhu Yi's current cultivation base, he felt lonely. Looking around, the entire world saw him as an enemy, and the entire world saw him as an enemy. The wheel of light stopped, and Zhu Hongwu moved with unprecedented ferocity. A simple and unadorned fist attacked Zhu Yi, but it revealed a destructive power. The fist of the gods and Buddhas. Zhu Hongwu's fist seemed to stop the heavens, and the gods and Buddhas were destroyed together. He ruled over the world, the fate of all living beings, and the direction of the great Tao of creation. Everything was in his hands, and he could decide it with a single punch. Simple piecing together, of course, can't be considered mastery, but combining three Tao into one is also nothing. Zhu Yi said softly. Then his body turned, and he shed his human form, revealing the true form of the Wenhua Tai Chi diagram. Above the Tai Chi diagram, the concepts of brightness and obscurity fused together, forming a giant character. It was easy to understand, but also inexplicably difficult to understand. A Qilin with a wheel of light above its head suddenly appeared above Zhu Hongwu. It was majestic, and a powerful aura crushed down on Zhu Hongwu. Before it could even get close, it was shaken by Zhu Hongwu's fist will, and it looked like it was about to shatter. But at the same time, the phantoms of dragons, the Vajra spirit turtle, and the black and white phoenix appeared, surrounding Zhu Hongwu. The four spirits cried out in unison, and the qilin that was on the verge of shattering stabilized. As for Zhu Hongwu, his eyes narrowed. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.